Chapter 32. After sending Gu Qing off, Chu Hen looked at the things on the table again, and a faint sense of security arose in his heart. After a few twists and turns, the result was truly unexpected. He originally thought that he would be able to enter Tifeng Province, but in the end, he was able to enter Tensei Prefecture, which was at the bottom. If Long Zhan were to find out about this, he would probably be unable to avoid a wave of worry. Forget it, since I'm already here, I'll just take things as they come. Regardless of whether the martial house is good or bad, my own strength is the way of the king. Chu Hen's eyes faintly surged with a sense of resolution and unswerving determination. Immediately, Chu Hen sat down beside the table and casually flipped through the student handbook in front of him. The handbook contained various aspects of Tensei Prefecture, and after flipping through it, Chu Hen discovered that the star points wasn't as simple as just evaluating the results of the new students. The most important function was to obtain the resources provided by the martial house. For example, when the number of star points accumulated reached 2,000, one could obtain 3 mid-grade origin crystal stones from the martial house every month. When the number of star points accumulated reached 3,000, one could cultivate natal opening stage martial skills and cultivation method. The further one progressed, the more precious the resources provided by the martial house would be. If one accumulated more than 10,000 star points, not only would one be able to cultivate better martial skills and cultivation methods, one could also obtain precious medicinal pills that would allow one's cultivation to advance in a short period of time. Chu Hen nodded to himself. It seemed that this was the charm of a high-level martial house. After roughly reading through the contents of the handbook, Chu Hen stretched his slightly sore muscles and bones. After that, he ate some of the dry rations he brought with him, then turned over and went to bed to rest. He didn't sleep last night, and after a bloody battle, he was slightly tired. After a short while, Chu Hen fell asleep. In a luxuriously decorated attic, a young man with a confident and elegant temperament sat sideways on a wide chair, his left hand lightly stroking his chin as he muttered to himself. 1 natal opening stage, 2 channel opening stage, 9th stage, a total of 20 people, but none of them were able to kill that little bastard. This is truly strange, it's this subordinate's fault. Please punish me, young master. A heavy thunder-like voice was emitted from the mouth of the middle-aged man below the hall. His body was bowed, and his face was also somewhat perplexed. Wei Han, exactly how powerful is that little bastard? The young man asked. The middle-aged man thought for a moment and said, according to this month's observation, he is at most at the 9th level of the channel opening realm. A channel opening realm rank 9 can kill so many people? This subordinate suspects that someone is secretly helping him. That's possible, but Long Qingyang has already gone to the Tianqi Mountains, and Long Xuanxuang is said to be in seclusion. Who could be helping him? Young master, please give me some time. This subordinate will investigate as soon as possible. There's no need for that. He's in Tensei Prefecture now. Let him go for now. Although Tensei Prefecture was declining year by year, the existence of those old fellows could not be ignored. In any case, I've already achieved my goal. That woman Yi Yu should be very satisfied with that person's situation. Isn't that good? The man laughed coldly, a cold gleam flashing between his brows. By the time Chu Hen woke up, it was already evening. Who's outside? Chu Hen frowned, feeling alarmed. It's me, the kind and handsome Xiao Fengfeng. Mu Feng's crazy voice came from the door. I saw that you haven't come out for a day, so I brought a few steamed buns and some cooked beef for you. Huh! Chu Hen could not help but be taken aback, his face full of astonishment. I left them at the door for you. As he spoke, the footsteps outside the door gradually faded away, and finally, the sound of the door opening and closing could be heard. Chu Hen got up and opened the door, only to see 2 paper bags on the floor. One contained 2 steamed buns, while the other contained some beef. Seeing this, The vigilance in Chu Hen's heart gradually subsided. After a short moment of hesitation, he accepted the other person's kindness. In the quiet night, as usual, Chu Hen was immersed in a state of cultivation. All 9 martial veins were opened, and the active true origin force unimpeded, completing one cycle after another in each of the major meridians. At this moment, Chu Hen was cultivating the 9-soul dragon seal, the strongest martial technique of the general's mansion that Long Zhan gave him 2 months ago in Flaming Rain City. This 9-soul dragon seal was a core transformation stage martial technique, and with Chu Hen's cultivation base at channel opening stage 9, he could not even use the first dragon seal. However, if he were to cultivate now, it would not be overlooked, and that was, it could speed up the improvement of his strength. Therefore, on the path of martial arts, the strengths and weaknesses of martial techniques are extremely important and cannot be left out. Buzz buzz, suddenly, the energy in Chu Hen's body became extremely chaotic. After a slight tremble, the true origin force that permeated his body dissipated. Chu Hen opened his eyes and murmured softly, "As expected, it won't work. It seems that in order to condense the first dragon seal, I must reach the elemental opening stage." Just now, Chu Hen tried to condense the first dragon seal. The result was obvious. Due to the lack of true origin force, he failed. Sometimes, the gap in cultivation base was really not that easy to make up for. Wait, suddenly, Chu Hen's mind lit up, and a strange idea appeared in his mind. He immediately calmed his mind, threw away all distracting thoughts, and entered a state of cultivation. The true origin force circulated in his body at a constant speed. Buzz! With a thought, Chu Hen immediately communicated with the bloodline boundary power of the chaotic body. In the hazy chaotic world, the sky was dark and the stars were moving. In the vast and boundless sky, a huge shadow tens of thousands of meters tall stood in the middle of the river of stars. That shocking, monstrous aura was like that of an unparalleled demon, causing people to feel fear. This time, Chu Hen communicated with the chaotic body alone, so the bloodline boundary power of the sacred demonic I-body did not appear. Under Chu Hen's control, the power of the chaotic body was constantly released, and it blended with the true origin force. In the next moment, the energy in Chu Hen's body became especially restless and violent. The surging energy quickly flowed through the 8 extraordinary meridians of his body. Buzz buzz, in the room, layers of black air swirled around Chu Hen's body, and the illusory air swirl seemed like a demonic dance. The air was chaotic, and the bed, table, chairs, cupboards, even the walls were faintly trembling. Chu Hen's handsome eyebrows were tightly knitted, and the veins on his forehead and neck were bulging. The energy in his body was as violent as lava. Chu Hen clenched his teeth, and as he controlled the restless energy in his body, he performed various complicated hand seals with his hands. Boom! Suddenly, Chu Hen put his palms together, and then slowly separated. A surging ball of golden true origin force surged wantonly in his palms, and there were strands of black luster in it. A powerful aura was constantly released from Chu Hen's body. 9-soul dragon seal. Following Chu Hen's quiet cry, his tightly shut eyes suddenly opened. An incomparably turbulent aura erupted from the true yuan in his palms. Roar. Chapter 33. Roar. The deep roar of the dragon was unusually loud in the silent night. It carried a kind of power that could make one's mind tremble. Looking at the illusory dragon figure that was agilely swimming around in his palm, a deep joy instantly surged onto Chu Hen's face. Success. He really succeeded. Although it was only an exquisite dragon that was less than 20 centimeters long, Chu Hen could clearly feel that it was filled with an extremely strong explosive power. Chu Hen was both surprised and happy. His eyes were filled with satisfaction. Then, with a thought, he withdrew his true yuan. With a wong sound, the dragon in his palm hid itself and disappeared in the blink of an eye. The minimum requirement to use the 9-soul dragon seal was to be at the natal opening realm. However, Chu Hen had unexpectedly broken this threshold. If this matter was known by Long Zhan, he would probably be shocked. Of course, in reality, Chu Hen was only trying it out. He used the power of the chaotic body as a guide and merged it with his true yuan to complete this test. He did not expect to obtain such a pleasant surprise. What kind of bloodline limit does the chaotic body have? It actually has such a shocking power. Chu Hen was secretly amazed. His eyes flashed with a bit of passion. The sacred demonic pupil body could also complete the amplification of martial skills and cultivation method. However, it was under the premise that the martial skill was used. Only when the martial skill was successfully used, the power of the demonic pupil body could increase the lethality of the martial skill by several times. Under normal circumstances, Chu Hen could not use the 9-soul dragon seal. However, the chaotic body helped Chu Hen to make up for this flaw. However, Chu Hen also knew that if the gap was too big, it would be difficult to overcome it. For the current him, martial skills and cultivation methods of the core transformation realm were already the highest limit he could reach. In essence, the gap between realms could not be made up with the bloodline limit. The only way was to make himself stronger and make his cultivation higher. It's still the same. No matter how strong the sacred body is, it still needs the support of one's own cultivation. If you're not strong enough, a martial body can also kill a saint body. At this moment, Chu Hen did not forget to remind himself not to get carried away by this small achievement. There was still a long way to go. However, Chu Hen also firmly believed that one day he would be able to exert the amazing power of the holy body of the demonic eye and unveil the veil of the chaotic body. After cultivating for an entire night, when Chu Hen opened his eyes, the sky was already bright. Even though he didn't sleep for the whole night, Chu Hen was still full of energy. He was in high spirits, and his whole body seemed to have inexhaustible strength. Sometimes, cultivating could replace sleeping. However, relatively speaking, cultivation was more boring and boring. According to what senior brother Gu Qing had said yesterday, the new students had to head to the 7-star plaza this morning to choose their bishop mentor. Although he was not particularly looking forward to it, Chu Hen still got up and changed into a new set of clothes. Creak. The door opened and the fresh morning air blew in. Hee, good morning. Brother, did you sleep well last night? A burst of hearty laughter followed, but this voice sounded a bit wretched. Needless to say, the other party was naturally that extremely narcissistic and weird Mu Feng. Mu Feng's attire today was relatively tidy, and looked much more pleasing to the eye than yesterday. Very good. Chu Hen replied carelessly and left on his own. Mu Feng directly chased after him. Hee, brother, you still haven't told me your name? From now on, we'll be living under the same roof, and we'll take care of each other. Am I right? If you can speak less, there's still room for discussion. Hee, I understand. I won't say any more, all right. Mu Feng really became honest. Chu Hen secretly shook his head, thinking that this guy was most likely mute in his previous life. However, because of what happened last night, Chu Hen's attitude was not so repulsive. This person was a bit long-winded, but his heart was not bad. The environment in Tensei Prefecture was very good. There were gardens, lawns, pavilions, plazas. All kinds of buildings were arranged in a picturesque manner, and at a glance, it made people feel relaxed and happy. After a while, Chu Hen and Mu Feng arrived at the Big Dipper Square. This was a very spacious field, with a high center and low sides, and it was connected by steps. On the highest stage in the middle, there were 7 white stone pillars, about 50 meters tall, arranged in the direction of the Big Dipper. The 7 stone pillars stood there, giving off a magnificent feeling of power. At this moment, there were already 600 to 700 people gathered in the Big Dipper Square, scattered around the square. Everyone was chatting loudly with each other. Which bishop mentor are you going to choose later? Do you still need to ask? Of course, it's Mentor Shilon. I also choose Shilon. I came to Tensei Prefecture for Mentor Shilon. I choose Mentor Shadowless. Haha, same, I choose Shadowless. Listening to the discussion around him, Chu Hen mumbled to himself, this year, Tensei Prefecture only recruited these few people? This is already not bad. Mu Feng, who was beside him, finally found a chance to speak. He continued, Tensei Prefecture is the only prefecture in the entire capital that has less than 10,000 students. For example, those martial academies like Imperial Wind, Giant Elephant, and Bright Moon have tens of thousands of students. Is that so? Chu Hen replied calmly. If it wasn't for Mentor Shilon, I'm afraid Tensei Prefecture wouldn't have recruited many people this year. It's not an exaggeration to say that among the new students every year, more than 80% of them come for Mentor Shilon, and some come for Mentor Shadowless and Hunter Mentor Song Ching. Hunter Song Ching. Chu Hen was slightly surprised. Yes. Mu Feng nodded. But Hunter Song Ching won't be teaching the new students this year. I heard that he's been promoted to the Academy's elder. The atmosphere in the square was quickly livened up. The people who were most mentioned were Shilon, Shadowless, Hunter Song, and a name called Bai Yu. It seemed that there were a few more famous people in Tensei Prefecture. A bunch of good-for-nothings. How dare they say that they're going to choose Mentor Shilon as the bishop? Suddenly, a burst of ridiculing laughter resounded from the square. Everyone's expression changed. The crowd made way for a young man in a luxurious robe, surrounded by a few people, walked to the front. As soon as they saw this person, the surrounding people shut their mouths obediently. Many of them more or less had a hint of fear in their eyes. That person's name is Lin Tao. He's this year's top newcomer. He's very cocky all day, Mu Feng whispered to Chu Hen. This person actually has the strength of a channel opening stage level 9? From the aura that the other party deliberately revealed, he could roughly determine that he had opened 9 martial meridians. Among this year's new students, he could definitely be called a top-notch genius. Chu Hen was quite surprised. Logically speaking, such a genius would definitely be accepted by the top 5 martial academies. Why is he in Tensei Prefecture? Is there a need to say? Of course, it's for Mentor Shilon. Mentor Shilon again? Chu Hen was even more surprised. What kind of charm did Mentor Shilon have? She actually made people joke about their future. However, seeing Chu Hen's expression, Mu Feng looked at him strangely. Don't tell me you don't know Mentor Shilon? Is there a problem? You win. There's actually someone in the Imperial City who doesn't know Shilon. Mu Feng's small eyes looked at Chu Hen with disdain, and then said rather seriously, Shilon became a mentor in Tensei Prefecture at the age of 19. This year is the 4th year. Although she's only 23, none of the students she teaches are inferior to the students of the 5 academies. Moreover, half of the students under her have already obtained black emblems. Even the students who became her students last year all obtained gold emblems. Gold emblems accumulated 20,000 star points. Black emblems accumulated 30,000 star points, and the qualification to leave the academy early. What made Chu Hen even more surprised was the other party's age. 23 years old, wasn't this a bit too young? It's said that Imperial Martial Academy invited Mentor Shilon to join their team of mentors 3 times. Moreover, the conditions they offered were higher and higher. However, all of them were rejected by Mentor Shilon. Amazing, right? And Chu Hen nodded, a bit of admiration surging in his heart. Of course, this isn't the most important point. Mu Feng suddenly revealed an infatuated look, his face full of infatuation. The most important thing is that Mentor Shilon is one of the Imperial City's 4 beauties. Imperial City's 4 beauties? Chu Hen was somewhat astonished. It wasn't hard to understand. The Imperial City's 4 beauties were the 4 most beautiful women in the Imperial City. Seeing Mu Feng's infatuated look, Chu Hen couldn't help but find it somewhat funny. So you're saying that you came to Tensei Prefecture for that mentor Shilan? Mu Feng raised his eyebrows and grinned. Not entirely. Other than the Imperial City's 4 beauties, mentor Shilan, there's also one of the 6 pearls, by Yue. She's also my little Feng Feng's ultimate goal. Imperial City's 4 beauties, 6 pearls. These were the Imperial City's publicly acknowledged top 10 beauties. By Yue, this name, Chu Hen had heard a few times from the surrounding crowd. Bai Yue wasn't a mentor in Tensei Prefecture, but an extremely talented genius student. Moreover, Bai Yue's bishop mentor was shadowless. Many new students also came for her. As for why someone with such good qualifications like Bai Yue was also in the bottom Tensei Prefecture, that was unknown. My little Feng Feng's ultimate goal is to get all the Imperial City's 4 beauties and 6 pearls. I'll make all the men in the world jealous. Wow, just thinking about it makes me excited. This is the peak of life. At the side, Chu Hen's forehead was full of black lines. This guy was simply hopeless. The mentors are here. Just then, an excited voice was heard. Chapter 34. The mentors are here. A voice filled with excitement and anticipation reverberated throughout the 7 Stars Square. Everyone's gaze swept towards the center of the square in unison. Soon after, more than 30 mentors walked over from afar. Behind them were many senior students who came to watch the show. The atmosphere became a little noisy. Pairs of eyes were searching for something. Where's Mentor Shilan? Is she here? I didn't see her. She's not here. I knew Mentor Shilan wouldn't come. I heard it was the same last year. Where's Mentor Shadowless? Who's Mentor Shadowless? Mentor Shadowless doesn't seem to be here either. Alright. Maybe Mentor Shadowless is drunk somewhere. I heard that he's always like this. The 2 most famous mentors in Tensei Prefecture did not appear. This made the new students, who were excited just a second ago, sigh in disappointment. The senior students who were watching the show all had strange smiles on their faces. Most of them were like these new students. They came to Tensei Prefecture with the same goal. However, they would soon understand that the worst was yet to come. Soon, more than 30 Tensei Prefecture mentors stood on the highest platform in the center of the square. Chu Hen found Song Qinglia's figure among them, and it seemed like he was the leader of the group. Similarly, Song Qingli saw Chu Hen in the crowd. Their eyes met, and a gentle smile appeared on Song Qinglia's face. Oh yeah, why did you come to Tensei Prefecture? Mu Feng suddenly asked. Chu Hen's eyes narrowed. He said calmly, none of the advanced martial houses in the capital wanted me, so I came here. No way? None of the martial houses wanted you? Mu Feng was in disbelief. That's right. What a talent! Mu Feng patted Chu Hen's shoulder and shook his head to comfort him. Brother, I didn't expect your experience to be so tragic. Don't be sad. I, Mu Feng, will take care of you in the future. Chu Hen's forehead was full of black lines. He said angrily, you are the real talent. Please stay away from me, okay? Understood. Mu Feng hurriedly withdrew his arm from Chu Hen's shoulder and stepped to the side with a standard horizontal stride. Song Qinglai stepped forward when the atmosphere was more or less settled. I'm Song Qinglai. First of all, I'd like to sincerely welcome all of you to Tensei Prefecture. Boom! As soon as he finished speaking, the audience burst into cheers and applause. Hunter Master Qing, can you be my mentor? Yeah. Hunter Qing, the reason why I came to Tensei Prefecture is because of you. Everyone, please be quiet. Song Qinglai waved his hand and smiled apologetically. I'm really sorry, everyone. Due to personal reasons, I will no longer be the bishop mentor for the new students from this year onwards. However, I ask everyone to believe in us. Every teacher in the Heavenly Star Martial House will do their best to nurture you. Next, we will start selecting the bishop mentor. As soon as he finished speaking, a few young men and women with extraordinary auras walked out from the other side of the square. The leader was a young man about 18 or 19 years old. He was dressed in blue, had a slender body, and a cold face. He exuded a heroic spirit. Wow! It's senior brother He Qingyuan. He's so handsome. A girl's voice came from the crowd. Senior brother Qingyuan is one of Mentor Shilan's students. I heard that he has reached the 9th stage of the element opening stage. He's only one step away from the core transformation stage. That's amazing. As he listened to the discussions around him, Chu Hen could not help but size up He Qingyuan. He saw that He Qingyuan was wearing a golden 5-pointed star badge on his shirt. This meant that He Qingyuan had accumulated more than 20,000 stars. Chu Hen nodded to himself. There were some talented geniuses in Tensei Prefecture. Is he very handsome? Mu Feng asked from the side. Not as handsome as you. Chu Hen replied nonchalantly. I like people who tell the truth. From the moment you said that, I, Shui Feng, decided that I'm definitely going to be your brother. He Qingyuan and the others walked to the front of the high platform. Song Tringlai nodded slightly as a sign of acknowledgement. I'm He Qingyuan. Today, I'll be choosing Mentor Shilan's new disciple. What? He Qingyuan will be choosing? Everyone's eyes lit up, and they looked at each other expectantly. He Qingyuan's expression was cold as he scanned the crowd in front of him calmly. Those who want to be Mentor Shilan's disciple, please stand to the left. As soon as he finished speaking, a large number of people rushed toward the left side of the square. They were all in a hurry, afraid that they would miss out on something if they could not get a spot. Let's go, Mu Feng said. Chu Hen thought for a while, then nodded his head. Truthfully speaking, after hearing Mu Feng say so much, in addition to everyone's current expressions, Chu Hen's heart was already somewhat curious. In the blink of an eye, hundreds of new students were standing together. Only a few people remained in the same place, and they were all girls. On the high platform, Song Tringlai and the other mentors could not help but shake their heads and smile bitterly. They were already used to this kind of scene. Before that, I need to remind all of you, He Qingyuan said coldly, there are only 3 places. In other words, only 3 of you will be able to become teacher Shilan's student. Boom. As soon as he said that, the crowd was in an uproar. 3 spots? What the heck? F*CK, this is a scam. He's definitely going to choose the 3 strongest people. There's no chance. Many people began to curse in their hearts. This year's number 1 newcomer, Lin Tao, crossed his arms in front of him. He had a disdainful smile on his face, and he looked very confident. A bunch of useless things. It's just a waste of time. In the face of Lin Tao's sarcasm, the people around him did not dare to say anything. Lin Tao's strength was there for all to see. It was obvious that he would definitely be one of the 3 spot. If there are no more questions, let's do a simple test. As He Qingyuan spoke, a delicate young girl beside him walked forward and took out a box of go. However, the go pieces were all white. Everyone, come forward and take a piece, He Qingyuan said. Everyone immediately began to line up. One by one, they went forward and grabbed a white piece from the box. On the high platform, Song Tringlai and the other mentors watched quietly from the side. They did not show any anxiety or dissatisfaction. Even if they spent the entire day on this, no one would have any objections. In everyone's eyes, Shilan was the core mentor of Tensei Prefecture. Soon, everyone had a white chess piece in their hands. Chu Hen was secretly bewildered in his heart. This white chess piece did not seem to be an ordinary chess piece. He could faintly feel strands of weak energy coming from it. What the hell is this guy doing? Mu Feng grabbed the chess piece and looked left and right, his face full of confusion. Everyone has a piece, He Qingyuan said indifferently. Next, put it in the palm of your right hand. Put it in the palm of your right hand. Everyone did as he said. Clench your right hand tightly and start to mobilize your primordial chi. Everyone followed suit and completed the next step. In less than 5 seconds, He Qingyuan suddenly shouted in a deep voice, "Stop! Stop!" At the same time, a faint cracking sound could be heard. "That's enough," He Qingyuan said. Everyone looked at each other. Was this the end of the test? He Qingyuan's gaze swept across the people in front of him calmly and said, "Those whose pieces are undamaged can be eliminated." In the next moment, the entire audience sighed. Immediately, group after group of people walked to the other side dejectedly. In the blink of an eye, there were only about 20 people left. Chu Hen and Mu Feng were among them. Seeing this scene, Chu Hen was extremely astonished. This kind of filtering method was really special enough. But there were still more than 20 people. How should they choose? He Qingyuan nodded slightly and walked steadily toward the remaining 20 people. "Open your hand." He Qingyuan took the lead and said to a handsome and kind-looking young man. The young man opened his palm and saw that the white chess piece was not broken. Instead, there were cracks on it. The cracks were in a straight line and were very regular. He Qingyuan was expressionless and walked silently to another person next to him. The other person understood and showed the chess piece in his hand to him. After checking more than 10 people in a row, He Qingyuan did not show the slightest change in emotion. Everyone could not help but feel uncertain. What kind of person would be considered qualified? It's Lin Tao's turn. With a trace of restlessness in the crowd, He Qingyuan came in front of Lin Tao. As this year's rookie king of Tensei Prefecture, Lin Tao would always be the center of attention no matter when. Lin Tao held his head high and his face was full of confidence and pride. However, Lin Tao tilted his right hand at a 90-degree angle and loosened his clenched fist. Then, a fine white powder sprinkled from his hand. This is? Everyone couldn't help but gasp when they saw this scene. Lin Tao had actually crushed the chess piece. Exactly what kind of hand strength was needed to achieve such an extent? Lin Tao is really amazing. If this guy is not selected, it will be intolerable. Chapter 35. Lin Tao is really something. He actually crushed the chess piece. If this guy isn't chosen, it would be unforgivable. Looking at the white powder that slid out of Lin Tao's palm, not only were the new students shocked, but even the old students who were watching from the sidelines were shocked. Among the instructors, other than Song Chunglai, all the other instructors nodded to themselves with approval on their faces. Listening to the discussions and exclamations around him, Lin Tao's expression became even more smug. He looked at He Qingyuan in front of him with anticipation. However, He Qingyuan's expression was still the same as before, calm and without any emotional fluctuations. He didn't say another word and continued to walk to the next student. Everyone was even more confused, wondering if He Qingyuan had facial paralysis. He was expressionless from the beginning to the end. Of course, even so, no one doubted his ability. Not long after, He Qingyuan arrived in front of Chu Hen and Mu Feng. Look at mine first." Mu Feng stretched out his hand with a face full of anticipation. Before he could open his hand, He Qingyuan said coldly, "There's no need to look. You can be eliminated." Why? Mu Feng almost jumped up when he heard this. "How can you be like this? You can't treat me unfairly just because I'm more handsome than you." The eyes of the surrounding crowd twitched involuntarily. How could there be such a shameless person in this world? "It has nothing to do with your looks," He Qingyuan replied calmly. "Then why? If you don't give me a convincing reason, I'll go to your doorstep." "You can't distinguish left and right. I told you to put the chess piece in the palm of your right hand. Look at which hand it is." "Which hand?" Countless pairs of eyes looked in the same direction. They saw that Mu Feng had extended his left hand in front of He Qingyuan, but his right hand was open and empty. Obviously, the chess piece was in Mu Feng's left hand. Mu Feng was stunned, then he muttered unhappily, "Can't I be left-handed?" Ha 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 ha, everyone burst into laughter. Even the instructors on the stage were amused. This year, they actually managed to recruit such a clown-level character. Chu-hen also felt helpless. He didn't expect that the guy beside him couldn't even tell left from right. Qingyuan shook his head and ignored Mu Feng. He turned to look at Chu-hen. Chu-hen understood and immediately spread out his right hand. The white chess piece did not shatter. With the chess piece as the center, fine cracks appeared in all directions. These fine lines were arranged in a regular pattern, looking like a circle of ripples on the surface of the water. The surprise in Qingyuan's eyes was fleeting. Just like before, he didn't say anything and turned to the next person. Sigh. Mu Feng sighed helplessly and patted Chu-hen on the shoulder. Brother, don't be discouraged. Even someone as handsome as me has been eliminated. Don't be too sad. Soon, Qingyuan finished checking. Everyone's hearts were in their throats, and their faces were filled with nervousness. It's done. The test is over. Next, I'll announce the 3 people who can become instructor Shilan students. Qingyuan said as he walked forward. Under everyone's expectant and surprised gazes, Qingyuan pointed at a good-looking and good-natured young man. You've passed. The young man was pleasantly surprised, and a shy smile appeared on his face. You've passed too. The second person Qingyuan pointed at was a young girl in a long red dress. The young girl was rather beautiful and had a delicate figure. Her big eyes were filled with joy. There was one more spot left. Everyone's attention involuntarily fell on Lin Tao. Lin Tao crossed his arms in front of him, a proud smile on his face. You've passed. The moment Qingyuan's voice fell, everyone was dumbfounded. Lin Tao's smile froze on his face. Song Chunglia's eyes lit up on the stage. The last person Qingyuan pointed at was none other than Chu-hen, who was standing beside Mu Feng. It's him. How could it be him? Lin Tao is the strongest newcomer this year. That's right, there's no reason for him not to be chosen. Everyone had all kinds of doubts. Mu Feng's face was full of surprise, and he looked like he was wondering if there was a mistake. On the contrary, Chu-hen appeared to be calmer. He had already guessed the purpose of this simple test. I have an opinion. Lin Tao was extremely angry, and he asked sternly with a gloomy face, how am I not qualified? I, Lin Tao, have opened up 9 martial meridians and have the bloodline limit of the Raging Bull martial body. And in the future, my martial body will definitely be upgraded to battle body. Among these 3 people, who can compare to me? Everyone was secretly shocked. This was only the first day of the official admission, and the only one who spoke like this was probably Lin Tao. Of course, Lin Tao did have enough capital to say such words. Faced with the other party's questioning, Qingyuan explained indifferently, the 3 people that instructor Shilan wants to choose are not the strongest, but those who fit her teaching characteristics. What kind of excuse is that? I don't need to explain anything to you. Also, please don't talk to me with a condescending attitude. You don't have the right, Buzz. As soon as he finished speaking, a strong aura was released from Qingyuan's body. The air was chaotic and the sound of waves was heard. Everyone was shocked. Many people were oppressed by Qingyuan's aura. Lin Tao's expression changed again and again. Facing Qingyuan, who was in the 9th level of the element opening realm, Lin Tao indeed did not have much capital to be arrogant. With Lin Tao's talent and potential, it was possible that he would surpass Qingyuan in the future. However, the gap between the two was too obvious, and Lin Tao did not have much right to speak. Song Chunglai and the other 30 or so instructors did not have any intention of stopping him. For arrogant newcomers, it was not a bad idea to give them a show of strength and sharpen their spirit. Lin Tao clenched his fists and his face was gloomy. In the end, he forcibly suppressed the resentment in his heart. Humph! Qingyuan sneered, turned around and said, the 3 who were chosen, please come with me. The surrounding crowd was filled with envy, jealousy, and hatred as they watched Chu Hen and the other two follow He Qingyuan to another place. Song Chunglai shook his head and smiled, then said in a clear voice, "Everyone can start choosing the other instructors. Let me tell you, you don't have to choose the best instructor, but you have to choose the one that suits you the most." Yes. Everyone nodded in agreement, and began to communicate with the other instructors before making their choice. Of course, many people directly registered under the name of Instructor Shadowless. As another famous instructor in the Tensei Prefecture, even if Shadowless did not come today, everyone was willing to wait. On the other side of the plaza. Let me introduce myself briefly. For the first time, a faint smile appeared on He Qingyuan's face. Li Hui, 7th level of the Channel Opening Realm. The one who spoke first was the delicate and shy young man. Zhou Lu, 8th level of the Channel Opening Realm. The girl in red looked more delicate, but her words were clear. Chu Hen, 9th level of the Channel Opening Realm. As soon as Chu Hen finished speaking, a few people immediately looked at him in surprise. 9th level of the Channel Opening Realm? He Qingyuan was also surprised. He did not expect this new student to be so low-key. Not bad. He Qingyuan nodded, then said, "From today onwards, you are instructor Shilan's direct students. 3 or 4 times a month, teacher Shilan will personally instruct you in your cultivation. As for the rest of the time, you can cultivate on your own. Or you can listen to other instructors." The 3 of them nodded. "What are your weapons?" He Qingyuan suddenly asked. "Mine is a sword." Li Hui replied. "I use a long whip," Zhou Lu said. Chu Hen was stunned for a moment, then said honestly, "I don't have a weapon yet." "No weapon?" He Qingyuan frowned. "You can't do without a weapon. If you fight with an enemy of the same level, you will be at a great disadvantage without a weapon. You should first solve the problem of a weapon, then report to Instructor Shilan." Chu Hen nodded lightly, but felt that the other party's words were not without reason. Of course, the truth was that ever since Chu Hen came to the Imperial City, he had not been idle, and did not have the time to choose a suitable weapon. After that, He Qingyuan gave a few simple instructions and left. "Senior brother Chu Hen, senior sister Zhou Lu, please take care of me in the future," Li Hui said. "No problem." Zhou Lu smiled faintly and replied with interest, "But junior brother Hui Yi, why is your personality like that of a girl? You speak so softly and meekly." I don't." Looking at the other party's embarrassed look, Zhou Lu covered her mouth and laughed. Chu Hen smiled slightly. "I'll take my leave first, see you later." "Okay, senior brother Chu Hen, see you later," Li Hui replied. Looking at Chu Hen's back, Zhou Lu said with some suspicion, "Do you think he really has the strength of a channel opening stage level 9? It can't be a bluff, right? It shouldn't be wrong, it's you. Would you lie to senior brother Qingyuan? Alright. But looking at his appearance, it's probably from a pile of pills. Senior brother Chu Hen didn't provoke you, why are you saying that about him? TSK, can't I just say it casually?" When Chu Hen returned to the area before the square, Mu Feng was already waiting for him. "I'm really speechless. The spot that originally belonged to me was snatched by you." Mu Feng tilted his head and looked at Chu Hen, then grinned, "Hee, but it's okay. I can still use Teacher Shadowless's name to woo one of the 6 pearls, by you first. I hope your dreams come true." Chu Hen replied lazily, then left the 7 Stars Square in the direction he came from. The bishop mentor selection was over, so there was no need to stay here any longer. Mu Feng raised his eyebrows proudly, then casually waved his hand, and a white chess piece was thrown out from his hand. Mu Feng had been holding this chess piece in his hand all along, and only just remembered to throw it away. The chess piece fell to the ground, and directly broke into pieces. Chu Hen was stunned. He saw that every piece that broke was actually the same size. "What's wrong?" Seeing Chu Hen's stunned expression, Mu Feng asked casually. Chu Hen's eyes narrowed, But before he could say anything, a few unfriendly figures suddenly blocked their way. To be precise, they blocked in front of Chu Hen. Chapter 36. Junior brother, there's something I want to discuss with you. A frivolous and mocking voice sounded as a few unfriendly figures suddenly blocked in front of Chu Hen and Mu Feng. The one in the lead was none other than this year's number 1 newcomer, Lin Tao. What's the matter? Looking at Lin Tao's arrogant and proud face, Chu Hen replied coldly. Mu Feng, who was at the side, muttered in a low voice, "Is there even a need to ask? This guy must be jealous that I'm more handsome than him." However, Lin Tao did not even look at Mu Feng. He stared at Chu Hen with a playful gaze and said in an irresistible tone, "Give me your spot." Spot. This naturally referred to the spot to become mentor Shi Lan's direct disciple. Hey, I say, aren't you being too much of a bully? Mu Feng stepped forward to stand up for Chu Hen. It's none of your business. Get lost. A young man behind Lin Tao reprimanded rudely. Mu Feng's body trembled. He coughed twice and replied weakly, "Why are you so fierce? It's not like I can't hear you." Lin Tao ignored Mu Feng and continued to look at Chu Hen with a playful gaze. "What if I don't agree?" Chu Hen replied indifferently. "Then it'll be much simpler. Who knows, when you wake up one morning, you might find that you're missing a leg or an arm." Lin Tao's words were full of threat. Chu Hen's eyes surged with coldness. I don't understand. I'm not the only one who got a spot. Why are you only looking for me? There's no reason. I just don't like you. Don't like you? A sneer appeared on Chu Hen's face. It seemed that in the past month, there were many people who didn't like him. However, Chu Hen did not want to waste time here with the other party. He did not say anything else and turned to leave. Whoosh! Suddenly, a heavy wave of air trembled, and a black heavy sword immediately blocked in front of Chu Hen. Lin Tao held the heavy sword in his hand, yet he did not even bat an eyelid. The corner of his mouth curled up in a dignified manner, filled with disdain. Seeing this, Mu Feng quickly said, "F***ck, don't go too far. You even took out your weapon. Do you want to kill me?" The instructors were still there. "If you do this again, I'm going to call for help." Lin Tao continued to ignore him. The edgeless heavy sword in his hand blocked in front of Chu Hen like an iron chain crossing the river. "If you don't hand over your quota, don't even think about leaving today. A good-for-nothing like you is not qualified to be Mentor Shi Lan's student." Although his tone was indifferent, it was full of aggressiveness. The few people beside him all revealed gloating smiles. Just as Mu Feng was about to call for Song Chunglai and the other instructors to help, a cold chill suddenly spread out from Chu Hen's body. Buzz! This was a frightening chill, and Mu Feng and the others could not help but be shocked. Before he could react, Chu Hen's sharp, icicle-like gaze pierced straight into Lin Tao's heart. "I'll give you to the count of 3. Get out of my sight immediately. Otherwise, I'll break your dog legs today." The clear and heavy voice was like a sharp knife stabbing into their eardrums. "If you can't bear it, then there's no need to bear it anymore." Feeling the fierce aura from Chu Hen's body, the faces of the people behind Lin Tao immediately turned pale. Even Lin Tao himself felt an inexplicable fear. However, as this year's newcomer king, Lin Tao, who had opened 9 martial meridians, would not be so easily frightened. Buzz! In the next moment, a surge of essential energy was released from Lin Tao's body. The brilliant essential energy climbed onto the blade of the heavy sword, transforming into dazzling golden patterns. A strong aura rose, and the chaotic airflow caused the space to tremble slightly. "I'm sorry to tell you, but you have successfully angered me. Today, I'll cripple you, you ungrateful thing." Lin Tao frowned, his killing intent rising. With a flick of his wrist, the heavy, edgeless heavy sword swept horizontally towards Chu Hen's throat. "What's going on over there?" At the same time, the busy instructors and students in the square were shocked by the commotion over there. Their gazes swept over at the same time, and they just happened to see the scene of Lin Tao attacking Chu Hen. Damn it! Stop! The instructors did not even have the time to stop him, and the crowd could only watch as the miserable scene of Chu Hen being beaten half to death by Lin Tao immediately appeared in their minds. However, at this critical moment, there was not the slightest trace of fear on Chu Hen's face. Roar, accompanied by a low and dignified dragon roar, Chu Hen's aura rose in fury without any warning. The dust on the ground rose, and a shock wave spread out. Immediately after, an illusory golden dragon shadow swept out from Chu Hen's palm and solidly collided with Lin Tao's heavy sword. Boom! A particularly heavy explosion sounded out in the square, and a chaotic and powerful true essence rippled out between the two of them. In the next instant, under the astonished gazes of countless people present, Lin Tao's body violently shook, and his eyes widened. The heavy sword in his hand was directly sent flying out of his hand. What? The appearance of this scene caused everyone to stare with their eyes wide open. Lin Tao's weapon had actually been sent flying by Chu Hen. Good heavens, he was the number one amongst the channel opening stage newcomers. However, what was even more shocking was yet to come. Lin Tao was shaken to the point of retreating, and at the same time, blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth. What the crowd did not know was that what Chu Hen had just released was the core transformation stage martial art, the 9-Soul Dragon Seal. Even if it was barely executed, it was still enough to injure Lin Tao. Lin Tao was only able to stabilize his figure after retreating more than 10 steps. Looking at the heavy sword that had fallen to the ground, Lin Tao was unable to restrain his anger. Bastard, I'm going to kill you! Buzz buzz, an even more surging aura leaked out from Lin Tao's body, and at the same time, an astonishing ruthless aura stirred the airflow in all directions. Humph! Chu Hen sneered. Do you think a piece of trash like you has the qualifications to point fingers in front of me? What did you say? As soon as his voice fell, Chu Hen immediately flashed out. His figure was like a ghost, and his steps were dazzling to the eyes. Lin Tao's pupils involuntarily shrunk. Before he was able to come up with any countermeasures, Chu Hen had already arrived at his opponent's left side. With lightning speed, he lifted his leg and kicked out, accurately landing on Lin Tao's left knee. Bang! The heavy landing sound was like a heavy hammer striking the hearts of the crowd, and everyone's pupils trembled. Lin Tao's eyes were about to pop out of their sockets, and the intense pain caused his entire body to start trembling. Lin Tao's left leg was bent inwards at an almost 90-degree angle, and the bones at the knee were almost shattered. An incomparably mournful scream came from Lin Tao's mouth. His face was purplish red, and his blood vessels were bursting. Everyone felt a chill run down their spines. Kill him for me! Lin Tao roared angrily at the few followers behind him. However, the few of them were scared out of their wits, and they looked at each other like birds startled by the mere twang of a bow. Humph, stubborn fool! A cold light flashed in Chu Hen's eyes, and he slapped his opponent's face with the back of his hand. Bang! Lin Tao was directly sent flying by Chu Hen's slap, and he spun a few rounds in the air before falling heavily to the ground. Blood and broken teeth gushed out, and half of Lin Tao's face immediately swelled up. All kinds of intense pain attacked every part of his body, and Lin Tao raised his head with difficulty. He looked at Chu Hen with hatred and fear, and then his head tilted to the side, and he fainted. Silence, deathly silence. The huge square fell into silence. The air seemed to have frozen, and everyone's faces were pale, and their hearts trembled as they looked at the scene in front of them. He was really King Ruthless. He was beaten to the point that even his mother couldn't recognize him. No one expected Chu Hen to have such strength, and even more so did not expect that this year's first place would have his legs broken in just a few moves, and he couldn't even get up. The other two people who had also obtained the direct student position of Mentor Shilan, Li Hui and Zhou Lu, couldn't help but swallow their saliva. Just now, Zhou Lu was still doubting whether Chu Hen had the strength of a channel opening stage 9. In the blink of an eye, she got the proof. Mu Feng, who was closest to Chu Hen, had a blank face. He blinked a few times in a daze and blurted out, really got his legs broken. How dare you? How dare you make a move here? After a short silence, a few mentors rushed over to question them. One of them pointed at Chu Hen and said, "Follow me to the disciplinary hall. This is only your first day in the academy, and you're already acting so recklessly. I won't let you off today." Just as Chu Hen was about to explain, a gentle voice followed. "Wait, Mentor Song Cheng?" Everyone was startled. The one who spoke was Song Chenglai. He said, "We all clearly saw what happened just now. Chu Hen wasn't the one who made the first move. It was just a legitimate defense." A legitimate defense. Hearing this, everyone was even more surprised. Song Chenglai was obviously speaking up for Chu Hen. Of course, what he said wasn't without reason. Everyone saw clearly that Lin Tao was the one who made the first move. But to be honest, Chu Hen's actions were a bit too ruthless. At the very least, Lin Tao would have to lie in bed for 1 to 2 months before he could completely recover. "Thank you, Mentor Cheng," Chu Hen said with a tinge of gratitude. Song Chenglai smiled slightly. "Let's talk about the matter at hand. If you really act recklessly in the academy in the future, I will also punish you." "I understand. There's nothing else. Go." Chapter 37. Chu Hen and Lin Tao had already caused such a huge commotion before the selection of the bishop mentor for the new students in the morning was over. Everyone was very surprised by what was happening in front of them. Looking at Chu Hen's gradually disappearing figure, the majority of people's gazes towards him changed. Low-key. He was really low-key. Looking at Lin Tao, who was lying motionless on the ground, he had become a joke. This year's newcomer king? Chu Hen smiled without saying a word. "I say, brother, you're too much of a friend. We've known each other for so long, and you didn't even tell me that you're so powerful?" On the way back, Mu Feng started nagging again. Chu Hen replied with a smile, "We've known each other for almost a day. It's indeed quite a long time. There are 24 hours in a day. We've known each other for 24 hours. Isn't that short? Based on your performance just now, I've decided to confer you the title of second most handsome man. Are you satisfied with this title? I'll thank all your ancestors if you can shut up for a few days." Chu Hen casually replied with a sentence, then walked in another direction, minding his own business. "Where are you going?" Mu Feng asked. "Going out for a while." After replying vaguely, Chu Hen left alone. Qing Yun Pavilion. After asking around, Chu Hen arrived at the entrance of a particularly majestic large pavilion. This was one of the famous large chambers of commerce in the capital. The reason why Chu Hen came here was to solve the problem of the weapon. Immediately, Chu Hen stepped onto the wide steps at the entrance and walked into the Qing Yun Pavilion. The interior structure could be said to be suddenly enlightened. The black marble floor was sturdy and thick, the ceiling was extremely high, and a large lamp hung in the center. He imagined how dazzling it would be at night. "Hello, how can I help you?" A sweet voice was heard as soon as he entered the door. He saw a pretty young woman looking at Chu Hen with a professional smile. "I want to buy a weapon." Chu Hen stated his intentions. "Please go to Zone 4 for the weapons transaction." The woman politely led the way for Chu Hen. Under the guidance of the man, Chu Hen arrived at Zone 4. Qing Yun Pavilion's plan was to divide the area according to different materials such as elixirs, weapons, precious ornaments, and so on. "Shopkeeper Jean, this young master wants a weapon," the young woman said softly. Shopkeeper Jean was an old man in his 50s. He was thin and had a pair of sharp triangular eyes. Anyone's first impression of him would classify him as an unscrupulous businessman. "What weapons do you need?" Shopkeeper Jean stood behind a counter and only glanced at Chu Hen indifferently before minding his own business and wiping a dagger-like object. It was obvious that shopkeeper Jean did not have the enthusiasm of a normal businessman. Of course, this was all too normal. Shopkeeper Jean had basically seen all of the rich and powerful people in the capital before. An unfamiliar face like Chu Hen would not be able to attract the other party's attention. A spear. Chu Hen answered without hesitation. Ever since he was young, Chu Hen had used many kinds of weapons under Long Zhan's training. Honestly speaking, Chu Hen could actually use all kinds of weapons like sabers, swords, staffs, and sticks. In comparison, Chu Hen preferred the sharpness and dominance of the frost spear. Over there. Shopkeeper Jean pointed at a place. Chu Hen looked over and saw a dozen spears hanging on the wall behind the counter. The tips of the spears were pointed upward, and all of them shone with a dazzling sharpness. Chu Hen's attention first fell on the golden spear in the middle. The spear was more than 2 meters long and had a diameter of about 2 centimeters. The body of the spear was inlaid with fine golden scales. It was sharp and dazzling. "How much is it?" Chu Hen asked. Golden python inverse scales spear. The spearhead is forged from black gold, and the body of the spear is made from the skin of a 9th-grade spirit beast, golden demon python. It is extremely flexible and not easy to break. Shopkeeper Jean gave a simple introduction. He still did not raise his head to look at Chu Hen. 10 high-grade primal crystals. 10 high-grade primal crystals? As soon as these words came out, Chu Hen felt as if a bucket of cold water had been poured over him from head to toe. The fiery excitement that had risen within him just a moment ago suddenly disappeared without a trace. Primal crystals were exchanged in units of 100. 1 mid-grade primal crystal was equivalent to 100 low-grade primal crystals, and 1 high-grade primal crystal was equivalent to 100 mid-grade primal crystals. In other words, this golden python inverse scales spear required 1,000 mid-grade primal crystals. Chu Hen did not know whether to laugh or cry. He really did not know how poor he was until he arrived at the Imperial City. When he left Burning Rain City, Long Zhan had given him another 100 mid-grade primal crystals. In addition to the 20 from before and the 30 from Instructor Li Gu of Tifeng Province, he only had a total of 150 mid-grade primal crystals. Moreover, he had spent some of them on cultivation over the past month. The mid-grade primal crystals Chu Hen had on him were only enough to pay 1/10 of the price of this golden python inverse scales spear. No time to consider. Chu Hen shook his head, his gaze sweeping over to the other spear. What about this? The second spear that Chu Hen had his eyes on was a pure black spear. Even the spearhead was gloomy, but it gave off an extremely cold and solemn feeling. Dark steel shadow spear. Its entire body is forged from 100-year dark steel. It weighs 60 kilograms, 5 high-grade primal crystals. Although it was half the price of the golden python inverse scales spear, it was still far from what Chu Hen could afford. But seeing Chu Hen's somewhat distressed expression, shopkeeper Jean did not seem willing to waste any more time on him. He walked to the wall where the spears were placed, pointed at one of the cold spears, and said, "Shadow spear. The cheapest one, 100 mid-grade primal crystals. The cheapest." These words were a little uncomfortable to hear. Chu Hen raised his eyebrows, looking at the spear with slight astonishment. "This is the same as that dark steel shadow spear?" Dark steel shadow spear, the two only differed by 2 words. Chu Hen compared the 2 spears and realized that the appearance of the 2 spears was shockingly similar. They were almost exactly the same. The only difference was that the shadow spear's luster was darker, and not as gloomy. The shadow spear weighs only 50 kilograms. Only the spearhead is forged from dark steel, shopkeeper Jean explained in a lukewarm tone. "So that's how it is." Chu Hen nodded his head. After thinking for a moment, he asked, "Can I try it first?" Shopkeeper Jean frowned. To be honest, he was getting a little impatient. But he had already wasted so much time on Chu Hen, and he did not want to let it go just like that. After a moment of hesitation, a malicious smile suddenly appeared on shopkeeper Jin's face. Sure. As soon as he finished speaking, he raised the shadow spear with one hand and threw it at Chu Hen. Chu Hen's eyes focused, and he reached out with his right hand to firmly grasp the shadow spear in his palm. A thick and steady feeling was transmitted to him through his palm. Chu Hen raised his hand and sprinted. With a whoosh, a slight buzzing sound reverberated in the air. Not far away, shopkeeper Jin's face immediately revealed a look of astonishment. His face was clearly filled with shock. Just now, shopkeeper Jin had done it on purpose. He had purposely thrown the shadow spear so that Chu Hen would suffer a little and lose some face. However, he did not expect that Chu Hen would be able to catch the 50-kilogram shadow spear in such a steady manner. He did not even move his feet. It was obvious that Chu Hen was quite skilled. Not bad, I'll use it first. Chu Hen tested it and felt quite satisfied. Of course, the most important thing was that he could only afford this. Do you need a storage ring? Shopkeeper Jin asked. Chu Hen shook his head and said, no need. I don't have enough primordial crystal stones left to buy another storage ring. A storage ring was a treasure used to store items. It was very convenient to carry it on one's body. Of course, this kind of treasure was also quite expensive. I have a storage ring with less than 3 cubic meters of space. It is just enough to store your shadow spear. I will only charge you 50 middle-grade primordial crystal stones. Shopkeeper Jin's tone was slightly gentler than before. Chu Hen still shook his head. Why? You don't even have 50 middle-grade primordial crystal stones? Shopkeeper Jin pondered for a moment and said, if you have time, you can accept the missions issued by our High Cloud Trade Union. As long as you complete them, you will be able to obtain a generous reward. Is that so? Chu Hen's eyes lit up. To be honest, he was just thinking about accepting the Academy's missions to obtain star points and exchange them for the primordial crystal stones he needed for cultivation. There are many students in the Imperial City who accept missions from us. You can consider it. Shopkeeper Jin said. All right, I'll go take a look first. Okay. Shopkeeper Jin faintly smiled. After he finished speaking, he placed the storage ring in his hand on the counter and moved it in front of Chu Hen. I'll give you this on credit for now. However, when the time comes, you'll have to pay an additional 5 mid-grade origin crystal stones as interest. In other words, you will have to pay me 55 middle-grade primordial crystal stones in the future. Chu Hen secretly sighed. That sentence was indeed not wrong at all. There really was no business that was not treacherous. Actually, he really wanted to reject shopkeeper Jin's good intentions. However, it would not look good to carry the shadow spear everywhere he went. It would be much more convenient if he had a storage ring. All right. Chu Hen agreed helplessly. It seemed like he had no choice but to accept the mission. After paying 100 middle-grade primordial crystal stones, Chu Hen instantly became a poor man. Moreover, he still owed shopkeeper Jin a debt of 55 middle-grade primordial crystal stones. Surprisingly, shopkeeper Jin did not ask Chu Hen to write a contract. After all, with the High Cloud Trade Union's influence in the Imperial City, it was not afraid that Chu Hen would run away without paying. Chu Hen kept the shadow spear in the ring and placed the ring on his right middle finger. It was an ordinary and simple ring. The shadow spear was only 2 meters long, so it did not take up much space. Chu Hen could still store other things in the ring. Where is the mission issued? Chu Hen asked. Chapter 38. Where is the mission posted? Number 5. After trading a shadow spear, Chu Hen instantly became a pauper. The imperial capital was too expensive. Sure enough, the small flaming rain city couldn't compare to the imperial capital. In the current situation, Chu Hen could not help but have the idea of accepting a quest. Do you want to accept a mission? A gentle female voice came from behind the counter. The speaker was a beautiful woman in her 20s. Chu Hen nodded. Yes, what missions are there recently? This was posted today. You can take a look. The other party took out a booklet and placed it in front of Chu Hen. With a trace of curiosity, Chu Hen flipped to the first page. Fresh snake gallbladder of a 9-segmented snake, 20 mid-grade primal crystal stones for transaction. Twin black Ganoderma, 30 mid-grade primal crystal stones for transaction. Ferret pup, 80 mid-grade primal crystal stones for transaction. After flipping through a few pages, Chu Hen finally understood. What kind of mission was this? It was clearly a trading list. As long as he traded the items on the list, he could get a relative price. This was a more common understanding. 15 high-grade primal crystal stones? When Chu Hen flipped to the last page, he couldn't help but stare blankly. He carefully looked at it again to make sure he didn't read it wrong. Scarlet blood crystal lotus, 15 high-grade primal crystal stones for transaction. Having grown up in the general's residence, Chu Hen had heard of the words scarlet blood crystal lotus. This was a strange flower that grew in the dark and humid forest. The scarlet blood crystal lotus absorbed the nutrients from the corpses of wild animals to grow. When it bloomed, it would look like a lotus flower, its color like blood, bewitching and enchanting. The scarlet blood crystal lotus had a wide range of effect. It could cure hundreds of poisons, cure old diseases, heal new injuries, strengthen the body, increase cultivation. A scarlet blood crystal lotus was indeed worth 15 high-grade primal crystal stones. 15 upper-grade primordial crystals. Chu Hen thought to himself. If he could find the blood rose crystal lotus, then he could take away his favorite golden python inverse scales spear. Moreover, the remaining primordial crystals could be used for a longer period of time. However, in order to obtain a treasure like the crimson blood crystal lotus, ability alone wasn't enough. It also required a lot of luck. Where can I find the blood rose crystal lotus? Can you tell me? Chu Hen asked casually. The beautiful woman in charge of receiving the other party smiled and said, I'm not too sure where to find this. However, I heard that the blood rose crystal lotus appeared in the Boneless Mountain Range before. Boneless Mountain Range. On a treacherous mountain range 200 miles north of the imperial capital, there were countless big and small demonic beasts, poisonous insects, snakes, ants, exotic flowers and plants. Expeditions would often go there to hunt demonic beasts and obtain their beast cores. There were also students from various high-ranked martial houses who often went there to train, fighting with demonic beasts and gaining combat experience. Of course, very few people dared to go deep into the mountain range. Most of them stayed in the outer regions. Other than the missions above, we also accept demonic beast cores. You can hunt some small demonic beasts and sell their beast cores to us, the woman opposite him said. Chu Hen smiled and said, Do I need to register to accept the mission? No need. As long as you bring the item, you can carry out the transaction. However, there is a time limit for the mission announcement. If you take too long and pass the deadline, we will negotiate to buy it. We will negotiate to buy it at 80% of the original price. Got it. Chu Hen nodded and immediately memorized most of the mission details. Then, he turned around and left. He didn't expect to be forced by life so quickly. The corner of Chu Hen's mouth curled into a helpless smile. However, this did not mean that there were no benefits at all. There were many small and low-level great beasts in the outskirts of the Boneless Mountain Range. He could use this opportunity to increase his combat ability. Since he was almost done, Chu Hen prepared to leave. At this moment, an ornament on the counter in the second region attracted Chu Hen's attention. It was a blue female bracelet with a crescent moon-shaped sapphire inlaid on it. The bracelet's workmanship was very exquisite. It didn't have any jewelry or tacky feeling. It looked especially fresh and elegant. Looking at this blue bracelet, a cute and obedient face appeared in Chu Hen's mind. Yi Yao, the second daughter of the Yi family in Raging Rain City. Back when she was in Shaozong College, she often stuck to Chu Hen's Xiao Ya hair. Come to think of it, ever since the night he was framed by Lu Xiao, he hadn't spoken to Yi Yao. Even at the Yi family, it was just a hurried farewell. Chu Hen remembered that Yi Yao used to have such a blue bracelet. It was said that it was a birthday gift from her sister, Yi Yu. It was just that Yi Yao had accidentally lost the bracelet, and she had cried for 2 hours because of that. Back then, Chu Hen had promised her that he would definitely give her a bracelet that was exactly the same as the one she wore on her next birthday. However, who would have thought that what happened next would be so unexpected? He didn't even have time to adapt. Yi Yao should still be in Raging Rain City. Would they meet again in the future? Even if they did, would they still be able to laugh and play like before? If only that hadn't happened back then, Chu Hen laughed at himself. He couldn't go back to the past. He could only say that in his heart, Yi Yao would always be his sister. And he did owe her a gift. Immediately, Chu Hen walked toward the counter in front of him. Then, he reached out to take the blue bracelet. He wanted to buy it and give it to Yi Yao when he had the chance in the future. However, at the same time, a delicate hand that was as white as snow reached out from the other side. Unknowingly, Chu Hen's palm and that beautiful jade-like hand came into contact at the same time. Chu Hen couldn't help but be startled. A strange feeling came from his fingertip. Then, both of them withdrew their hands. Chu Hen turned to look. The first thing that came into view was a beautiful face that was as beautiful as a fairy's. It was an especially beautiful girl. She wore a long white dress that accentuated her exquisite and tall figure. She had slender eyebrows, limpid eyes, and small cherry lips that were exceptionally alluring. Coupled with her elegant and refined temperament, she looked like a fairy that had walked out of a painting. Chu Hen was a little dazed. He couldn't come back to his senses for a while. The girl's beautiful eyes rippled slightly. She looked at Chu Hen strangely. Her red lips moved slightly, and her voice was soft and sweet. Have you also taken a fancy to this bracelet? Chu Hen quickly retracted his gaze. Menchong, we should go. Before Chu Hen could finish speaking, a clear female voice was heard. Another young girl with delicate features was waving in their direction. All right, I'm coming. The girl standing in front of Chu Hen responded softly. Then, she glanced at the blue bracelet on the counter and turned to leave. Mengchang, who is that person? I don't know. All right. Let's go back quickly. If Mentor Hong Lian finds out that we sneaked out to play today, she'll probably scold us again. No, Mentor Hong Lian is quite gentle. That's for you. It's different for us. Chapter 39. Meng Shang? Was that her name? Chu Hen stared blankly at the two young girls who had disappeared from Qin Yun Pavilion's entrance. The fairy-like beautiful silhouette wearing a long white dress seemed to have melded into his mind. Just now, when their fingers accidentally touched each other, a certain heartstring in the depths of Chu Hen's heart seemed to have been touched. It was an indescribable feeling. A hint of tenderness, a touch of freshness. I'm too much. It's as if I've never seen a beautiful woman before. Chu Hen gently patted his head and smiled helplessly. However, to be honest, that girl was indeed the most beautiful woman Chu Hen had ever seen. Whether it was her appearance or temperament, they were both mesmerizing. Chu Hen shook his head to get rid of the messy thoughts in his mind. He walked to the counter at the side and pointed at the blue bracelet. How much is this? 20 mid-grade primordial crystals. Do you need me to pack it up for you? A good-looking woman replied politely. And Chu Hen nodded his head. Shortly after, he took out 20 mid-grade primal crystal stones and placed them on the table. After a simple transaction, Chu Hen placed the blue bracelet in the brocade box into his storage ring. He did not have many mid-grade primordial crystals left after this trip to Qin Yun Pavilion. Fortunately, the matter of the weapon had been resolved. After paying off the remaining debts, he could cultivate in peace. Subsequently, Chu Hen returned to Tensei Prefecture. Mu Feng was not in his room. He did not know where he had gone to show off. After a short period of interaction, Chu Hen felt that Mu Feng was a person worth befriending. For example, Lin Tao had caused trouble for him this morning. If it was an ordinary person, they would not have dared to cause trouble. However, Mu Feng had spoken up for him. This was enough to show that he was not a weak and incompetent person who was afraid of trouble. The only thing that Chu Hen could not stand was that guy's nagging and silly personality. Chu Hen returned to his room, closed the door, and began to cultivate. Following the routine of the 9-soul dragon seal technique, he circulated it a few times, then took out a jade slip. He opened the jade slip, but there was not a single word on it. This jade slip was the treasure that Li Wushang had given to Chu Hen back at Qi Shin Mountain. There were nearly 100 martial arts techniques hidden in this jade scroll, and only people with the bloodline limit of the demon pupil sacred body could read them. Under normal circumstances, Chu Hen was not in a hurry to cultivate the next martial art. After all, he had not completely mastered Great Waterfall Mountain Destroying Palm, and he had only just started learning 9-soul dragon seal. However, since Chu Hen had chosen the spear, the king of weapons, as his main weapon, then it was necessary for him to cultivate a martial skill related to the spear. I wonder if the jade slip Senior Li sent has martial skills related to spear techniques? Chu Hen muttered to himself. If there was none, then he needed to think of another way. Without thinking much, Chu Hen immediately released the power of the demon pupil, and his dark and clear eyes immediately flashed with a demonic purple light. Buzz! Along with a strange energy fluctuation, the things in front of Chu Hen quickly changed. In the next moment, nearly 100 bright light balls suddenly appeared in Chu Hen's meditation consciousness. Each light ball was quietly suspended in the air, about the size of a fist. Most of the light balls were red, a small part was golden, and 2 were white. With Chu Hen's current strength, he was unable to train in the martial skill cultivation method that the red ball of light represented. The golden ones could be studied. As for the 2 white balls, they had already been cultivated. They were the balls of light that contained the Great Waterfall Mountain Destroying Palm and the Big Dipper Wandering Dragon Step. Compared to the first time he came here, the number of golden light balls had obviously increased. This was closely related to the growth of Chu Hen's strength. Immediately, Chu Hen began to try to find a spear technique among the martial arts techniques that he could cultivate. Shocking Cloud Sword Technique, Core Transformation Realm Sword Technique. The sword moves unpredictably and uses force to injure people. 8-legged demonic blade, Core Transformation Realm Blade Technique. The blade's force is piercingly cold, and it's extremely lethal. Chu Hen unceasingly flipped through and searched for one martial skill after another. At the same time that he was grateful towards Li Wushang's generosity, he was also inwardly shocked at the variety of martial skills. Stormy Blood Shadow Spear? A light ball that flickered with a gentle radiance made Chu Hen happy. As expected, there were martial arts techniques related to spear technique. Stormy Blood Shadow Spear, Core Transformation Realm Spear Technique. The wind is shadowless, and it can be used for both offense and defense. The force of the spear is as swift as the wind, and it's swift and fierce. After receiving the information in his mind, Chu Hen was very satisfied. This is it. Following that, Chu Hen's divine sense merged into the golden light. Along with a slight fluctuation of energy, the Stormy Blood Shadow Spear cultivation method appeared in Chu Hen's mind without missing a single word. In the blink of an eye, a whole day had passed. Since he came back yesterday afternoon, Chu Hen did not leave his room until the next morning. However, not long after the sun rose, the door to his room opened. Chu Hen, who was wearing simple and light clothes, walked out of the room. Creak! At this time, Mu Feng also walked out of the room. When he saw Chu Hen's clothes, he could not help but ask curiously, "Where are you going?" "Out of the city." Chu Hen answered casually. "Out of the city? No way. You've only been in the hospital for less than 3 days, And you're in a hurry to leave? Yes. I have something to do. I feel like your brain is not working well. It was not easy for you to get a place to be teacher Shilan student, and you're not going to stay in the academy? You're really flirtatious. Mu Feng curled his lips in dissatisfaction. I'm in a hurry, we'll talk when I come back. After speaking, Chu Hen turned to Mu Feng and hurriedly left the courtyard. Not long after, it would be the morning market time of the imperial city. At that time, there would be people coming and going on the streets, so it was inevitable that there would be some delays. It was still necessary to leave early. Hey, when are you coming back? Don't miss the Star Elite competition. All the top new and talented students of the high-ranked martial houses have to participate. Mu Feng shouted a few times, but Chu Hen had already walked far away without any response. What a strange fellow. I, little Feng Feng, have a great reputation. Why am I living under the same roof as this kind of fellow? Mu Feng muttered a few words in dissatisfaction. Junior brother Chu Hen, junior brother, are you awake? At this time, a series of hurried footsteps came from outside the door. What's all this noise about? What are you mumbling about so early in the morning? Did you lose your underwear or something? Oh, it's senior brother Gu Qing. That, last night, someone came to steal my underwear. Hee, I'm not scolding you. Gu Qing's forehead was full of black lines. He thought to himself, with your infinitely flirtatious underwear, who would want to touch it? Is junior brother Chu Hen here? Hee, you're a step late. Chu Hen just went out, but the most handsome person in the world is still here. If you have something to say, tell me. He's not looking for you, so it's useless to tell you. Someone came to look for Chu Hen? Is it a man or a woman? Mu Feng's small eyes were full of vulgarity as he said with a smile, It's so early, the beauty must not have woken up yet. It must be an ugly girl, right? What nonsense are you talking about? The person who came to look for junior brother Chu Hen is Bright Moon Martial House's Long Xuanxuang. What? Long Xuanxuang. Mu Feng stuttered as he asked with wide eyes, one of the imperial capital's 4 beauties, Long Xuanxuang? That's right, it's Long Xuanxuang. Quickly tell me, where did junior brother Chu Hen go? I'll see if I can catch up to him. Miss Long is still waiting at the Qixing Plaza. So, before Gu Qing could finish his words, Mu Feng had already disappeared from the spot. Gu Qing stood there in a daze. Just now, he felt a gust of wind blow by and Mu Feng disappeared without a trace. Qixing Plaza. A cold and beautiful figure attracted the attention of the surrounding crowd. Long Xuanxuang's delicate and beautiful face revealed a cold beauty's temperament. The surrounding people looked at each other with eyes full of amazement. She's Long Xuanxuang. She's really as beautiful as the rumors say. Why did she come to our Tensei prefecture? I don't know. She seems to be waiting for someone. Long Xuanxuang stood on the spot quietly without a single ripple on her face. Ha 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 ha. At this moment a neurotic laughter suddenly sounded. It's early in the morning. The beautiful people are awakened by their beauty. Only the ugly people are still sleeping. Miss Long, my name is Mu Feng. Nice to meet you. The surrounding crowd was stunned. This Long Xuanxuang is here to look for Mu Feng? It doesn't look like it. Miss Long, junior brother Chu Hen went out not long ago. Is there anything I can do for you? Mu Feng shook his head and revealed a smile that he thought was extremely cool. Long Xuanxuang raised her beautiful eyes and opened her red lips slightly. Where did he go? He said he went out of the city and will probably be back in a few days. He didn't say where he went. Thank you for telling me. Long Xuanxuang replied and turned to leave. Hey, Miss Long, it's fate that we met. Junior brother Chu Hen isn't here. Is there anything I can help you with? Does that guy owe you money? I was wondering why he left in a hurry this morning. It turns out that he went to hide from his debt. How much does junior brother Chu Hen owe you? I'll return it for him. By the way, Can I treat Miss Long to a cup of tea and talk about life ideals? Hey, Miss Long, I'm not done yet. Don't go. As Long Xuanxuang's figure gradually disappeared, Mu Feng was met with the rolling eyes of the surrounding crowd. F***ck. I'm so handsome and no one cares about me? It's probably because Miss Long is still asleep and didn't see my face clearly. Mu Feng nodded as he muttered to himself. But then again, what's the relationship between this Chu Hen and Long Xuanxuang? However, at this very moment, Chu Hen was already on his way to the Boneless Mountain Range. 200 miles outside of the imperial capital, there was a vast forest. Deep in the mountains, there were many demonic beasts and countless venomous insects, snakes, and ants. After Chu Hen left the capital city, he carried the shadow spear on his back. Chapter 40. The vast and endless forest was mysterious and deep. At first glance, the forest was as vast as a sea of green. In the depths of the mountain range, there were undulating mountains and valleys that looked like the bones of a dragon crawling on the ground. It was extraordinary and full of boundless power. In the depths of the mountain range, there were roars of unknown ferocious beasts from time to time. As one of the most dangerous areas in the Sacred Star Dynasty, the Boneless Mountain Range was filled with danger. Boom! At this very moment, somewhere in the forest within a 500-meter radius of the Boneless Mountain Range, a fierce battle was taking place. Roar! The terrifying roar was extremely intimidating. This was a demonic beast covered in white fur. It was about 3 meters tall and 5 meters long. Its appearance was similar to that of a male lion, but it was incomparable to an ordinary lion beast in all aspects. This snow lion was a level 1 dire monster. Wu Xiu, who was equivalent to a level 1 natal opening realm human, was not only strong in attack, but also extremely fast. However, the one fighting the snow majestic lion was a young man with a black spear. The young man's body was covered in dust and sweat, and he seemed to be in a sorry state. However, the firm outline of his face seemed to have been carved by a guillotine. His deep eyes were filled with calmness, and there was no panic or fear in them. Roar! The snow lion's eyes were filled with ferocity. It bared its teeth and emitted a ruthless aura. Suddenly, the snow lion leaped up and pounced down with an unstoppable force. This is the moment. The young man's eyes were filled with a sharp, cold light. When the snow lion leaped to the highest point, the young man leaped up as well. Surging true origin energy was released, and the mighty power quickly climbed onto the spear in his hand. Buzz! In an instant, the black shadow spear immediately emitted a dazzling golden light. The restless true origin energy surged wantonly, and it looked like the essence extracted from the sun. In the next instant, the young man directly threw out the cold spear in his hand. The attack was as fast as lightning, and its momentum was like a ray of light. Hiss! Along with the sound of the air being torn apart, the shadow spear was like a chopstick piercing through tofu, and it forcefully pierced into the snow lion's head. Woo! A shrill scream came out of the snow chong lion's mouth, and dark red blood splashed and danced in the air. Bang! The huge body of the snow lion fell heavily to the ground, causing a large amount of dust and fallen leaves to rise. It then struggled on the ground for a few times and then stopped moving. Killed in one strike, clean and neat. Chu Hen calmly looked at the snow lion in front of him. There was not much excitement or joy on his face. He had already been in the Boneless Mountain Range for close to half a month, and this was not the first Class 1 great demon that he had killed. Ever since they entered the Boneless Mountain Range, they had encountered no less than 100 demonic beasts and killed 50 to 60 of them. The strongest one they met was a Class 2 great demonic beast. In that battle, Chu Hen could be said to have given it his all. After an extremely intense and bitter battle, Chu Hen finally killed the Class 2 great demon in an extremely thrilling manner. The various injuries on Chu Hen's body were also caused by the continuous battles over the past few days. In order to effectively improve his combat ability, Chu Hen did not use the nirvana power of the demonic pupil sacred body even once. Even the power of the chaotic body was rarely used. However, the results of the continuous battles over the past few days were still obvious, especially in terms of spear techniques. His foundation had become more solid and steady, and his grasp of the stormy blood shadow spear had also been constantly improving. For example, when he killed the snow chong lion just now, if it was in the past, Chu Hen would not be able to kill it so easily. This also proved the saying that combat was often one of the fastest ways to improve one's cultivation. Chu Hen pulled out the shadow spear, and a string of blood splashed out. The dark and sharp spear emitted a buzzing sound. After drinking so much blood for so many days, the shadow spear was much sharper than before, and it also had a kind of cold sharpness. Although this shadow spear is enough for me now, I still need to get a better one in the future, Chu Hen murmured, and casually put the shadow spear into the storage ring. Then, he took out a dagger and cut open the snow chong lion's head, and took out a crystal-clear beast core. Most of the beast cores of demonic beasts were diamond-shaped, about the size of a red date. The beast core of a Class 1 Great Demon could be traded for at least 20 to 30 mid-grade primordial crystal stones. As for a Class 2 Great Demon, it was almost double that. Chu Hen had now collected a beast core of a Class 2 Great Demon, 5 beast cores of a Class 1 Great Demon, and 40 to 50 beast cores of small Great Demons. As for the missions that he had obtained from the Qingyun Pavilion, he had also completed a few. For example, the snake gallbladder of the 9-segmented snake, the twin black Ganoderma. These were all his gains over the past half a month. If he traded these things with the Qingyun Chamber of Commerce, he would be able to get about 300 mid-grade primordial crystal stones. He had to admit that hunting demonic beasts here was indeed a better way to earn money. However, in reality, it was also a gamble with one's life. He could lose his life at any time here, especially in the mouth of the demonic beast. Rustle, rustle. Just as Chu Hen was about to leave, a series of footsteps suddenly came in his direction. Chu Hen turned his body slightly, and the corner of his eyes narrowed. After thinking for a short while, he moved his body and flashed towards a towering tree not far away. Then, with a few somersaults, he leaped into the lush canopy of the tree. Not long after, 8 or 9 small teams with unfriendly expressions and sinister auras appeared. The sound of fighting just now should have come from here. Leader, the snow chong lion's blood is still warm. That person just left not long ago, an ear-piercing voice of a duck, was particularly unpleasant to the ears. Chu Hen carefully pushed aside the leaves on one side and looked down through the branches and leaves. The person who spoke was a short man. He used his hand to touch a trace of the snow chong lion's blood and licked it a few times with his tongue, revealing a sinister and satisfied smile. Another man with a knife scar on his face asked in a deep voice, "Leader, should we chase after him?" The few people's gazes gathered on a bald man. This person had a fierce face and a pair of ferocious eyes that emitted a sinister and ruthless light. He of course will chase after him. Before the bald man could speak, the short man who licked the snow chong lion's blood smiled proudly and said, "Those who have the ability to make it here must have collected a lot of demonic beast core crystals. These few days we've only met thin sheep, and we've only eaten a few pieces of meat. It's rare to meet a fat sheep, so how can we let him escape?" Hearing the few people's conversation below, Chu Hen immediately understood. Turned out that these people were bandits who killed and robbed people. In the Boneless Mountain Range, using the method of robbing was much faster than painstakingly hunting demonic beasts to obtain beast cores. In any case, many people died in the Boneless Mountain Range every year. This also resulted in some criminals committing heinous crimes for the sake of huge profit. "Boss, why don't you say something? If we don't chase after him, he'll be far away," the man with a knife scar on his face said. The bald man's eyes narrowed and immediately said, "We don't want this fat sheep anymore." "Why, leader?" Look, the snow-chong lion only has one fatal wound, so it's obvious that the person executed a fatal attack in one blow. To be able to kill a level 1 great demon so cleanly, his strength must be above the level 1 natal opening stage. The bald man paused, and a hint of seriousness appeared in his vicious eyes. He then continued to say, "Don't forget the purpose of our trip. Before we get that thing, we must preserve our strength." Leader is right. Preserving our strength is more important. Leader, as long as we get that thing, we can go to the Rising Cloud Trade Union to exchange for 15 high-grade primal crystal stones. By then, we can have a good rest and have some fun. The short man smiled proudly. "Humph, stupid," the bald man sneered in disdain. "Leader, why are you scolding me? What's 15 high-grade primal crystal stones? If we sell that thing on the black market, people will buy it even if it's 30 high-grade primal crystal stones." Upon hearing this, everyone's eyes lit up. "All right, then let's sell it on the black market. Damn it, the Rising Cloud Trade Union. Let's not waste any more time. Leader, let's go now. Don't let anyone beat us to it. Let's go." The bandits left in a hurry and disappeared into the depths of the forest in the blink of an eye. Chu Hen, who was hiding in the treetops, did not come down immediately. Instead, he listened quietly to the movements around him. 15 high-grade primal crystal stones, the Rising Cloud Trade Union. Based on these words, Chu Hen could most likely determine that the thing they were talking about was the blood crystal lotus. Chu Hen could not help but fall into deep thought. Among the bandits, the bald man was the strongest. Based on the aura he exuded, he was at the level 2 natal opening stage. It would be difficult to deal with him alone, let alone the others. But then again, once he obtained the blood gem crystal lotus, Chu Hen would not only be able to trade for the golden python inverse scales spear, but he would also not have to worry about primordial crystal stones for a long period of time. After a brief moment of hesitation, Chu Hen's eyes flashed with determination. He would follow them for the time being and wait for an opportunity to strike. If there was any danger, he would retreat immediately. Let's do it. Chapter 41. The boneless mountain range was fraught with danger. In the depths of the gloomy forest, the scalp-numbing roars of ferocious beasts continuously rang out. At this very moment, Chu Hen was tailing behind a small group of bandits, continuously moving deeper into the forest. To an ordinary person, this was definitely a crazy thing to do. Chu Hen was definitely the first person in the channel opening stage who dared to do such a thing at the channel opening stage. Of course, Chu Hen was not trying to show off. At the very least, he could ensure that he could escape unscathed even if he was discovered by the enemy. Chu Hen still had this bit of confidence. After all, he had stayed in the Boneless Mountain Range for almost half a month, so he had a rough understanding of the situation in the outer region. Once the situation turned bad, Chu Hen was ready to escape. "Woo!" roar. As they ventured deeper into the inner region of the Boneless Mountain Range, the dangerous aura in the air became more intense. The bandit squad led by the bald man, the scarred man, and the short man were all on high alert, constantly paying attention to their surroundings. This was not their first time coming to the Boneless Mountain Range. They often killed and robbed people here, robbing them of their beast cores. They were very familiar with the terrain and environment of the Boneless Mountain Range. Where was the danger? Where could they not go? They knew it like the back of their hands. Therefore, to them, it was much easier to find something in the mountain range than ordinary people. "Boss, we have already entered more than 1,000 meters into the outer region of the mountain range. If we go any further, we will encounter some more troublesome beasts," the scarred man said. The short man also said, "Boss, why haven't we seen the wetland where the blood crystal lotus grows? Is the information reliable?" The bald man laughed coldly. "This information was obtained from the mouth of that old fellow, Wild Monkey. Do you think it's reliable?" The few of them could not help but raise their eyebrows, revealing a relieved expression. Since it was brought by that old fellow Wild Monkey, it can't be wrong. Boss, how much money did you pay for his information? Heh, a life. A life? That's right, I took the life of that old Wild Monkey. After I got the information out of his mouth, I directly twisted his neck. The fewer people know about something like the crimson blood crystal lotus, the better. The bald man's eyes flashed with a vicious and cruel light. Everyone's expressions changed, and a chill ran down their spines. Time was ticking away. The towering trees on both sides were constantly left behind. The deeper they went into the jungle, the darker it became. The lush treetops were full of leaves, making it difficult for sunlight to shine through. The moist air seemed to be mixed with the smell of soil. Soon, the bald man and the others entered the 1,500-meter range. We've found the wetland that Wild Monkey mentioned. The bald man's voice was filled with unconcealable excitement. At the same time, he slowed down his pace. Scarface, the short man, and the others also slowed down. What appeared in front of them was a damp area. Water was faintly visible on the ground, and footprints more than 10 centimeters deep were left on the ground. Look, the crimson blood crystal lotus is there. A bandit with bright eyes shouted in surprise. Everyone was excited. In the wetland in front of them, there was an area with dark soil, and in the center of that area, there was a patch of lush vegetation. Among the green vegetation, there was a blood-red lotus swaying like a ghost in the night, revealing a hazy sense of beauty. It really is King Crimson Blood Crystal Lotus. That old Wild Monkey really didn't lie. The short man's eyes were shining. The Crimson Blood Crystal Lotus was similar in size to an ordinary lotus, but not only was its color as red as blood, its petals were as bright as red crystals. From afar, a red halo lingered around the petals, like smoke and mist, appearing very enchanting. We're rich! 30 high-grade primordial crystal stones. We can have fun for a while. When they saw the crimson blood crystal lotus, they were like starving beggars seeing a table full of delicious food. All of them could not control the excitement in their hearts. Boss, I'll go and get it. The scar-faced man grinned. Don't be rash. The bald man stopped him and said in a deep voice, if it's so easy to get, that old Wild Monkey would have taken it long ago. Why would he treat this information as a trade? His words woke them up. The bandits immediately understood. The bald man glanced at the short man beside him, and the latter smiled sinisterly. Got it? After saying that, the short man suddenly took out 2 longan-sized steel balls from his sleeve. Then, he waved his hand, and the steel balls quickly flew out, landing in the bushes behind the wetland. Boom! Along with a violent tremor, a powerful explosive force immediately blew up the shrubs and jungle. The strong wind raged, and mud flew everywhere. The crimson blood crystal lotus swayed back and forth uneasily. Shorty 3, don't destroy the crimson blood crystal lotus. The scar-faced man said nervously. I'm not that stupid. It's not the first time I've used the thunderbolt bead. I know what I'm doing. Before he could finish his sentence, a cold, gloomy aura assaulted them. Accompanied by a creepy whistling sound that sent chills down one's spine, a colorful monster slowly crawled out from the dark jungle behind the shrubbery that had just been blown up. I knew you'd be hiding in the back, you animal. A smug smile appeared on the bald man's face. Demonic beasts would usually appear in places where exotic flowers and plants grew. Especially in an area that was more than 1,500 meters deep in the forest, it would definitely not be as peaceful as it seemed on the surface. Wild Monkey, who had discovered the crimson blood crystal lotus, was unable to take it away because of the monster's presence. As for the other party, they had learned a lesson from their mistakes and became the guide for the bald man's group. It was a colorful giant spider. Its torso alone was 5 meters wide, and with its slender legs, it was more than 10 meters wide. Its hideous head was facing the group, and it was terrifying and disgusting. Its sharp mouth was like a man-eating flower, and its guillotine-like claws made people shudder. Level 4 monster, 5 poisons giant spider. The bald man said coldly. Facing such a ferocious monster, he did not panic at all. The 8 eyes on the head of the 5 poisons giant spider stared coldly at the group in front of it, as if it was warning them. Hee hee, this animal seems to still be angry. The bald man revealed a sinister smile, then changed the topic and shouted, "Old rules, go!" Yes. The few bandits responded in unison, then quickly spread out and formed a fan shape. Clatter, then, each of them took out an iron chain that was as thick as a wrist. The end of the iron chain had sharp barbs. In the next instant, everyone threw out the chains in their hands at the same time. Swish, swish. Everyone's movements were extremely swift. 8 to 9 metal chains flew out like a river. The incomparably sharp barbed edge directly pierced into the 5 poison giant spider's abdomen. Hee, the 5 poisons giant spider let out a fierce and angry scream. Its guillotine-like mouth opened, and emerald green venom sprayed out. Steady the iron chain, don't get splashed by this monster's venom, the bald man commanded. The iron chain in everyone's hands was more than 10 meters long, and it moved in a regular pattern. It completely fixed the 5 poisons giant spider in an area and restricted its movement. Every time the 5 poisons giant spider moved, the barbs in its back tore at its flesh, causing extreme pain. In a situation where its movements were restricted, the 5 poisons giant spider could only continuously spit venom. The emerald green venom immediately withered the plants that came into contact with it. Chu Hen, who was hiding in the dark, quietly watched the scene in front of him. He could not help but narrow his eyes. Although this group of people were bandits, they were also well-trained and had good teamwork. Even some of the regular soldiers in the imperial city might not be able to do better than these people. This also proved that the bandits in front of him often used this method to deal with fierce demonic beasts and to rob and kill people. Soon, a large amount of green blood gushed out of the 5 poisons giant spider's back. The bandits controlled the barbs at the end of the iron chain to cut open the spider's skin and flesh. Today I will break open your animal's stomach, the bald man said with a sinister smile. The others also revealed sinister and malicious smiles. Suddenly, the giant spider let out an extremely strange scream. Soon after, it opened its terrifying mouth, and a bundle of white spider silk suddenly flew out from its mouth. Swish! The spider silk flew more than 10 meters away, directly wrapping around the neck of a fierce man who was caught off guard. The man's expression changed drastically. He hurriedly raised the large knife in his hand and slashed wildly. However, the 5 poisons giant spider's spider silk was famous for being extremely flexible. The large knife seemed to be chopping on a soft steel wire, and there was not the slightest effect. Before anyone could react, the spider silk quickly retracted, bringing the fierce man along with it to the side of the 5 poisons giant spider's mouth. "Boss, save me. Save, He didn't even have the time to finish speaking when the 5 venom spider's mouth, that was like a guillotine, bit down fiercely, and its sharp teeth that were like man-eating flowers instantly tore open the bandit's stomach. Blood sprayed everywhere, internal organs flew, and bits of flesh scattered everywhere. An incomparably shrill scream came from the man's mouth. His hands and feet clawed wildly as he struggled desperately. In an instant, he died on the spot. Crack! Chapter 42. Crack! In the blink of an eye, an unlucky bandit was bitten in half from the middle by the 5 poisons giant spider. Pieces of flesh and broken internal organs were scattered everywhere. The bloody and cruel scene was truly a ghastly sight. However, the bald man, Scarface, and the other bandits did not have much anger on their faces as they watched their companions die without a complete corpse. This was not the first time something like this had happened. They had seen even more terrifying scenes in the past. The bald man quickly calmed himself down and scolded sternly, Throw the thunderbolt beads into that beast's mouth." "Yes." Everyone responded and immediately took out several longan-sized steel beads. Swoosh, swoosh, a sinister glint flashed in everyone's eyes. One by one, they threw the thunderbolt beads in their hands into the 5 poisons giant spider's mouth. Because the 5 poisons giant spider's back and abdomen were full of barbed iron chains, its movement was restricted and it could not dodge. One after another, the thunderbolt beads exploded next to the 5 poisons giant spider's mouth. The thunderbolt beads were tools that were filled with gunpowder in an extremely small space. When they were thrown, they were injected with primordial chi. Under the pressure of primordial chi, the gunpowder inside would instantly detonate. Its power was concentrated and it was easy to carry around. This kind of tool was often used by people who hunted monsters. Boom! Bang! Violent explosions kept exploding next to the 5 poisons giant spider's mouth. Dust and smoke filled the air and sparks flew everywhere. The rocks and branches on the ground were blown away. "All of you better be more accurate. If anyone accidentally destroys the blood rose crystal lotus, I'll cut him into 1,000 pieces." While the bald man was giving instructions, he also paid attention to the blood crystal lotus. Fortunately, the blood crystal lotus was a little far from the 5 poisons giant spider. Coupled with the fact that the power of the thunderbolt beads was concentrated, the blood crystal lotus was not damaged by the shockwave. Screech, the 5 poisons giant spider kept struggling. Dark green blood kept flowing out of the wound on its abdomen. After a series of indiscriminate attacks, the bandits' thunderbolt beads were also used up. The smoke and dust dispersed, and when they looked at the 5 poisons giant spider again, half of its mouth had been blown up. The guillotine-like pincers were blown apart, looking like a man eating flour with its mouth wide open. All kinds of disgusting mucus flowed out from it. "Hee hee, your beastly mouth is gone. Let's see how you can bite people now." The bald man smiled complacently. His eyes were filled with malice. He, however, as a level 4 great demon beast, how could the 5 poisons giant spider be defeated so easily? Accompanied by a terrifying screech, the back of the 5 poisons giant spider's abdomen suddenly caved in. Then, a bowl-sized hole appeared in the cavity. The next moment, something that made one's scalp go numb happened. Countless tiny black dots crawled out of the hole. Upon closer inspection, these tiny black dots were actually tiny spiders the size of mung beans. Tens of thousands of baby spiders were like an ant's nest that had been flooded. Densely packed little spiders surged out and darted toward the bandits along the iron chains. Damn it! The bandits' expressions changed drastically. They subconsciously shook off the iron chains in their hands and quickly retreated. However, there were still 2 bandits who did not react in time. Countless baby spiders climbed up their arms along the iron chains, and then bit down with their tiny sharp teeth. Such small baby spiders, it was understandable that they would be bitten a few times. At most, it would be no different from an ant's bite. However, that was not the case. Intense pain instantly spread through every nerve of the bitten person. Even though they were baby spiders of the 5 poisons giant spider, their toxicity was still extremely terrifying. What was even more terrifying was that more and more baby spiders climbed up the 2 men's bodies. In the blink of an eye, the 2 bandits' bodies were covered with tiny spiders. Along with extremely shrill screams, their flesh and blood were devoured in an instant. In an instant, they had turned into 2 sets of bones. What was worse was that the bandits released the iron chains. Without the iron chains binding the 5 poisons giant spider, it regained its ability to move. "Boss, let's retreat," Scarface said solemnly. What are you afraid of? Now that 3 are dead, won't we get an extra share of the primordial crystals from the blood rose crystal lotus?" The bald man laughed sinisterly. "What?" Before the rest of them could react, the bald man took out 3 gray balls. "Cover your noses and mouths." After saying that, the bald man threw the gray balls in his hands at the oncoming 5 poisons giant spider. Bang bang bang. 3 consecutive dull explosions sounded. The 3 gray balls exploded like the previous thunderbolt beads, but what came out was a puff of pink smoke. In an instant, a strange fragrance rose in the air. Wherever the pink smoke went, all the baby spiders suddenly became motionless and lost their vitality. As for the 5 poisons giant spider, it staggered and stopped moving as if it was drunk. The 5 poisons giant spider's broken and hideous mouth kept moving, letting out angry screams, but this sound was obviously much weaker. Scarface, the short man, and the others all widened their eyes, their faces filled with great surprise. After the smoke dissipated, Scarface could not help but blurt out, "Boss, this is?" "Heh, a smoke made from the powder of the soul-departing butterfly," the bald man said proudly with a face full of smiles. "Even if a spirit beast breathes in the powder of the soul-departing butterfly, it will temporarily fall into paralysis, let alone a level 4 great demon." "Boss, why didn't you take such a good thing out earlier?" the short man asked. This thing is very expensive. I don't want to use it unless it's the last resort." The bald man glanced at his 3 companions who were already dead. He then pointed at the 5 poisons giant spider and said, "First, chop off this animal's legs. Later, we'll take out its poison sac. That's worth a lot of money." "Okay, Remember, don't kill it first. If it dies first, the poison sac's toxicity will be reduced, and the price will be greatly reduced. After that, there will be beast cores." "Understood, boss." The few of them immediately charged at the 5 poisons giant spider fiercely. The powder of the soul-departing butterfly was indeed powerful. The 5 poisons giant spider was powerless and had already become a fish on the chopping board. Chu-Hen, who was hiding in the dark, could not help but narrow his eyes as he watched the 5 poisons giant spider's leg gradually being cut off. These bandits are really capable of using all kinds of technique. Even a level 4 demonic beast was defeated. At this moment, the bald man was already walking toward the blood rose crystal lotus. A light flickered in Chu-Hen's eyes, but just as he was about to move, Chu-Hen suddenly stopped. He raised his eyebrows and muttered to himself with great interest, "Hey, there's actually an aureole." Whoosh! Just as the bandits were about to get busy, a rapid wind-breaking force attacked them. What followed was a mocking and complacent laughter. "Ha ha ha ha, thank you for helping us get rid of this 5 poisons giant spider. I'm very grateful." "What?" Hearing this voice, everyone's heart couldn't help but be startled. The bald man, the scarred man, and the others all clenched their fists and looked toward the source of the voice anxiously. They saw 3 young figures standing on the branches of a towering tree in front of them. The 3 figures were 2 men and 1 woman, and they all seemed to be 17 or 18 years old. The one who had just spoken was the young man standing in the middle. The 3 of them had playful and mocking expressions on their faces. "Where did these little bastards come from? Scram as far as you can," the scarred man shouted angrily. Don't be nervous, everyone. Don't be so rude. It's too unpleasant." The middle-aged man smiled majestically, and his whole body emitted a heroic aura. On the left was a delicate-looking young lady with curved eyebrows and a pair of big, watery eyes. The young lady snorted disdainfully and said, "They're just a bunch of heinous bandits. Why are we talking so much nonsense with them? Just kill them." Junior Sister Shinwen is right. The young man in a green robe standing on the right smiled frivolously. You're courting death." Flames of fury gushed out from the scar-faced man's eyes. In the next instant, he directly leapt up, setting off a ferocious aura as he charged towards the 3 of them. The large blade in his hand blossomed with a dazzling radiance under the lingering true yuan. "All of you die." The green-robed man on the far right sneered. He leaped up and swooped down with the agility of a cheetah. As he moved, a sharp sword appeared in his hand. Hiss! The sword flashed and stung the eyes. Along with the sound of the air being torn apart, the scarred man's pupils were filled with fear and panic. I won't be sending you off. The man in green robes smiled lightly. Hiss, blood rained down and internal organs flew everywhere. The swift and fierce sword aura directly split the scarred man into two halves. Scarlet blood wantonly filled the air. He died in an instant, and he didn't even have the chance to scream. Second brother! Second brother! The bald man and the short man's expressions changed dramatically. Their faces were filled with endless anger and fear. These three people had great backgrounds and were not as simple as they had imagined. Chapter 43. In order to thank you for leading us to the Blood Crystal Lotus, we've decided to send you on your way. The azure-clothed man had a playful smile on his face. The expressions of the bald man, the short man, and the other bandits changed drastically. Endless anger and shock surged on their faces. Killed by a single slash. The scar-faced man, who was ranked second among the bandits, was sliced in half by the opponent's sword. He did not even have the chance to scream before he died on the spot. These three young men and women who were less than 20 years old were not to be trifled with. If it wasn't for the Blood Crystal Lotus, how could you have survived until now? Die. Without another word, the azure-clothed man charged forward with his sword in hand. The bandits immediately went up to meet him. Little bastard, don't be too arrogant, the short man roared angrily. Heh! The azure-clothed man smiled disdainfully. The sword in his hand made a crisp, vibrating sound, and the sword was so fast that it looked like a phantom. Hiss! The short man only felt a piercing pain in his eyes. In the next instant, an intense pain spread from his right shoulder to his entire body like a tide. Along with a rain of blood, half of the man's shoulder was chopped off. The short man's eyes almost popped out of their sockets, and his face instantly turned as pale as a sheet of paper. A painful scream was still brewing in his throat when the sword flashed, and the man's head was immediately separated from his neck. Scarlet blood spurted out like a fountain. The azure-clothed man's expression did not change at all after killing two people in a row. Moreover, he did not have any intention of stopping. He continued to slaughter the remaining bandit. Screams rang out, and broken limbs flew everywhere. Shang Zai's swordsmanship has improved a lot. On the branches of the towering tree, the handsome young man smiled with great interest. The delicate woman beside him also smiled, and her eyes subconsciously swept in the direction of the Blood Crystal Lotus. Oh no, the Blood Crystal Lotus and the bald bandit are gone. The young man beside him narrowed his eyes, only to see that the bald man who was originally standing there had disappeared without a trace. The Blood Crystal Lotus had also been taken. It turned out that from the very beginning, the bald man had seen that the situation was far from good, and had sneakily escaped with the Blood Rose Crystal Lotus. As for his own group of brothers, all of them were abandoned without a care. You run pretty fast. The handsome young man clenched his fists and said in a deep voice, Xinwen, let's go after them first. Shang Zai alone is enough. All right, Senior Lin Hai. After saying that, the two of them jumped down from the tree one after the other, and quickly chased in a direction in the jungle. Damn those three bastards! At this moment, the bald man was fleeing through the jungle at his fastest speed. It did not cross their minds that someone would follow behind them and act as the aureole. Every man for himself, and heaven and earth would destroy him. In this situation, he could only abandon his companions and escape alone with the Blood Gem Crystal Lotus. But this is also good. The high-grade primal crystal stones obtained from the Blood Crystal Lotus transaction will be mine alone. When the bald man thought of this, he could not help but smile sinisterly. It's too early for you to be happy. Suddenly, a mocking voice resonated from the front. What? The bald man was shocked. Before he could react, a huge tree in front of him suddenly split open from the middle with a loud bang. Along with splinters of wood, a sharp black spear tore through the air and attacked from the back of the tree with an unstoppable force. Hiss! A series of blood splattered in the air as the sharp black spear directly pierced the bald bandit's throat. The tip of the spear that was stained with blood came out from the back of the bandit's neck. This spear was clean and decisive, and it killed with a single strike. The bald bandit's eyes were wide open, and blood flowed continuously from the corner of his mouth. A handsome young man's face was reflected in those pupils that were about to pop out of their sockets. "I won't send you off." Hiss! With a flick of his palm, Chu Hen pulled out the shadow spear, and the bald bandit fell powerlessly to the ground like a pile of mud. When it came to such vicious and evil bandits, killing them was killing them. Chu Hen did not have the slightest bit of sympathy for him. Then, he squatted down and took a storage ring from the bandit's hand and probed it with his consciousness. After confirming that the blood gem crystal lotus was hidden inside, a knowing smile appeared on Chu Hen's face. "Heh, a bandit leader like you has collected quite a lot of good things. Thank you for your gift." Immediately, Chu Hen generously put the bandit's storage ring into his own storage ring. At this moment, Chu Hen clearly sensed that two auras were quickly heading in his direction. This was not a place to stay for long. Without any delay, Chu Hen turned around and left, disappearing into the depths of the jungle in the blink of an eye. Over there! Not long after Chu Hen left, Lin Hai and Xian, who had chased after the bald bandit, arrived. When they saw the bald bandit's corpse on the ground, they could not help but look at each other and read the surprise in each other's eyes. Swoosh! At the same time, another fierce figure arrived one after another. It was the green-clothed man who had tortured and killed all the bandits, Shang Zhe. "What's going on? Did you get the blood gem crystal lotus?" Shang Zhe asked. Xian shook her head, a hint of confusion surging in her beautiful eyes. Lin Hai, on the other hand, walked to the bald bandit's corpse and roughly examined the wound. He stood up and said, "A fatal blow. It seems that there's another Oriole besides us." A cold light flashed in Shang Zhe's eyes, and a piercingly cold, killing intent quietly spread. "I don't care who the Oriole is. Since he dares to use our people, we definitely won't let him escape." The three of them nodded in unison. They immediately identified the footprints on the ground and roughly determined the direction the bandit had escaped in. Then, they quickly chased after him. In the dark and damp forest. At this moment, there was a scene of "you chase me, I chase you." The mantis pounces on the cicada, unaware of the Oriole behind. Chu Hen acted as the fisherman, for once and smoothly took the blood rose crystal lotus into his bag. However, it was not so easy to be the Oriole, and a new danger followed. It was obvious that the three people behind him were quite experienced in tracking in the forest. It would be difficult to shake them off in such a short time. These three people are very strong. If I fight them head-on, I have no chance of winning. Chu Hen thought to himself, and a hint of seriousness surged in between his brows. The green-clothed man who attacked just now had a cultivation base of at least the second level of the element opening stage, maybe even higher. The other two must be similar. With such a lineup, Chu Hen did not even need to think about it. He had no other choice but to run. "I can't go on like this. It's only a matter of time before they catch up." Chu Hen could not help but feel a little anxious. Could it be that he had to hand over the blood gem crystal lotus? Just as Chu Hen was deep in thought, a gray demonic beast suddenly appeared in front of him from the bushes in front of him. It was a gray-furred monkey, about the size of a 15 or 16-year-old human, with sharp claws on its hands and feet. Gray-furred spirit monkey, a 7th-level demonic beast. Chu Hen's heart lit up, and an evil smile immediately appeared on his face. That guy changed his direction. Xian, who was among the three people chasing behind, said. Lin Hai and Shang Zhe also nodded. Looking at the footprints on the ground and on the branches, they could clearly determine the other party's escape route. "Let's see how long he can run for." A cold light flashed in Shang Zhe's eyes, and he once again increased his speed. After about the time it took to drink a cup of tea, A figure jumping up and down in the forest entered the sight of the three people. "Humph, we finally found this bastard, let's see where you can run to now." Shang Zhe took the lead and flew up, and shouted in a deep voice, "If you don't want to die, stop right now." The other party ignored him, and continued to rush forward. "You asked for it." Shang Zhe's face turned cold, and a sharp long sword immediately appeared in his hand. The surging power of true essence was released, and with a thought, the sword immediately flew out from Shang Zhe's hand with a xiao sound. It dragged out a powerful wave of qi in the air, and directly hit the figure. Hiss! The sharp sword forcibly pierced through the figure's body, and a miserable and strange cry sounded. "Shang Zhe, beautifully done." Exhilarating praised. Shang Zhe's face revealed a proud smile. However, when the three people arrived in front of him and took a closer look, they were all stunned. They saw a gray-furred monkey lying on the ground, and this gray-furred monkey was wearing human clothes, and on its feet were human shoes. How can this be? Xian and Lin Hai looked at each other, and when they calmed down, they saw that the end of the gray-furred monkey's tail was actually burnt, and they could faintly smell a burnt smell. "So that's how it is." Lin Hai let out a deep breath. He was both annoyed and impressed. What a good cicada-shedding carapace trick! We were all tricked. It turned out that the three people had been chasing a monkey since some time ago. That person forced his clothes and shoes on the gray-furred monkey, and then used fire to burn the monkey's tail. Once the tail was on fire, the monkey immediately jumped up and down in pain, and ran in all directions. This move could not be said to be not clever. It was really unimaginable. Damn bastard! Shang Zhe's fists were clenched so hard that they made cracking sounds, and his face was so cold as if covered with a layer of frost. "I will definitely not let him go like this. If I don't get the blood crystal lotus back, I, Shang Zhe, will not rest." At this moment, Chu Hen, who had changed into a new pair of shoes and clothes, had already changed to another route to leave. Thinking of the three people's expressions when they saw that the person they were chasing was a gray-furred monkey, Chu Hen could not help but smile faintly. "I wonder which higher education institution these three people are from? Forget it, it's better for me to leave." Chapter 44. After some time, Chu Hen successfully obtained the blood ruby crystal lotus. The process was even more unexpected than he had imagined. Even Chu Hen himself did not expect it to be so easy. Of course, only Chu Hen would dare to mess around like this. If it were any other channel opening stage 9 wuxiu, they would definitely not dare to do this. Take the spear that killed the bald bandit for example. It was clean and neat. Although the bandit was distracted in the process of escaping, he was still a channel opening stage 2 cultivator. If the spear had been slightly slower, it might not have been able to kill him in one shot. However, Chu Hen did not hesitate and sent the shadow spear into the bandit's throat. Then, he used the golden cicada shedding shell, which made the people who were chasing after him secretly exclaim. Therefore, the reason why Chu Hen was able to obtain the crimson blood crystal lotus was because of his extraordinary courage and intelligence. However, for Chu Hen, who had come to the Boneless Mountain Range for the first time, there was still a problem. Did I go the wrong way again? Looking at the deep, dark forest in front of him, Chu Hen could not help but frown. He had already been walking around in this forest for a long time, but he could not tell which direction he was in. Moreover, the forest was filled with all kinds of smoke. Towards the end, Chu Hen could not even tell which direction he was in. Looks like my luck is not as good as I thought. Chu Hen carried the shadow spear on his back and constantly paid attention to the movements around him. There was a hint of caution between his brows. The surrounding environment was somewhat different from the outside. It was very quiet here, and the trees were much taller than the outside. At a glance, there was not even a small beast or bird in sight. This meant that there was a high chance that there would be stronger beasts nearby. It's better to leave as soon as possible, Chu Hen thought to himself. However, he was troubled as to which way was the way back. Suddenly, through a gap in the forest ahead, the side of a huge mountain appeared in his line of sight. Chu Hen raised his eyebrows, thinking that he could climb to the top of the mountain to take a look. After all, the higher one was, the farther they could see. Even if they couldn't find the exit, they could roughly determine their current location. Chu Hen immediately rushed forward. Since he was high up, it was easy for him to expose himself. In order to avoid being attacked by the demon beasts and being found by the 3 people who were tracking him, Chu Hen was especially careful as he moved towards the top of the mountain. He tried his best to move forward under the cover of the bushes and vegetation. After spending a lot of time, Chu Hen successfully reached the top of the mountain. Before he had the time to check his current location, an incomparably violent energy wave assaulted him. The airflow was incomparably chaotic, and even the ground was faintly shaking. What followed was a loud and clear howl that shook the heavens. As soon as the wolf howled, all the demonic beasts within a radius of several thousand meters prostrated themselves on the ground. The birds, beasts, and birds fled in flocks. Chu Hen was shocked and hurriedly threw himself to the ground. His right hand gripped the shadow spear tightly, and his face was solemn. An invisible fear rose up like a tide, and his back began to turn cold. Not good. I've been discovered by the demonic beast. Boom, boom. Before Chu Hen could react to what had happened, an even more intense collision of energy once again exploded in the sky. Chu Hen furrowed his brows and looked up. He saw that in front of the mountain was a valley, and the valley was filled with water that formed a lake. And in the area above the lake there was a fierce battle. This battle was actually between a human and a demonic beast. From where Chu Hen was, he could clearly see the situation above the lake in front of him. He saw that the appearance of the demonic beast was that of a wolf. Its body was more than 10 meters wide, and it wasn't particularly large. However, its entire body was as white as snow, without a single strand of mixed hair. There was only a cluster of blue patterns in the center of its forehead. The patterns were in the shape of snowflakes, special and mysterious. There were sharp barbs on the white wolf's neck, and there was a pair of similarly white wings on its back. Ice Moon Devil Wolf? Chu Hen's expression changed again, and his eyes were full of fear and solemnity as he looked at the white wolf. Chu Hen, who grew up in the general's mansion, knew a lot about the species of demonic beasts. He recognized the white wolf in front of him as an Ice Moon Devil Wolf at first glance. However, what shocked Chu Hen was that this Ice Moon Devil Wolf was a beast king, and its strength was equivalent to a void-piercing realm powerhouse. In the Sacred Star Dynasty, Wu Xiu, who had a cultivation base of core transformation realm, could be considered as an expert. However, the number of experts who had the strength of void-piercing realm could be counted on one's fingers, and all of them were well-known figures. Chu Hen never thought that there would be a battle of this level here. However, what shocked Chu Hen even more was that the one fighting the Ice Moon Devil Wolf was actually a woman, and a young and beautiful woman at that. The young woman was dressed in gorgeous clothes, and her long hair was tied up high, showing a graceful and luxurious temperament. There were no flaws in her exquisite facial features. Her eyebrows were raised, and her skin was fair. She was beautiful and noble. While Chu Hen was secretly surprised by her beauty, he was even more surprised that she had such a powerful cultivation base at such a young age. The Sacred Star Dynasty was indeed a place of crouching tigers and hidden dragons. It was much more complicated than he had imagined. The woman held a sword in her hand. The shape of the sword was special, and the connection between the hilt and the blade was in a spiral shape. The edge of the sword was swallowing and emitting a dazzling silver light. It was obviously not an ordinary weapon. Howl! The long howl of the Ice Moon Devil Wolf shook all directions, emitting the aura of the King of Beasts. Facing the fierce attack of the Ice Moon Devil Wolf, the woman was calm, and there was not a trace of fear on her pretty face. Bang! The sword and the claw clashed, and the Ice Moon Devil Wolf had the upper hand in terms of strength. The wings on its back flapped, and the airflow became chaotic. Wind and thunder rolled, setting off a huge, majestic force. As she retreated, the young woman's beautiful eyes had a slight ripple. She condensed her palm, and the sharp sword immediately bloomed with a silver light. Buzz, buzz, restless energy waves were released from the body of the sword, and the bright silver light was like the essence power extracted from the bright moon holy light. The woman raised her wrist and slashed at the ice moon devil wolf. Swoosh! In the next moment, a silver sword light that was more than 100 meters long traversed the void. The incomparably powerful sword's shadow was like a divine light that could trace back thousands of years, sweeping out with a power that could destroy everything. In an instant, it was as if the heaven and earth had dimmed a little. Howl, at the same time, the eyes of the ice moon devil wolf revealed an ominous glint. It opened its huge mouth that was full of sharp fangs and raised its head to the sky. An astonishing surging flame rose from the body of the ice moon devil wolf, and the spiritual power between heaven and earth rapidly gathered at the side of its mouth. A thick white cyclone condensed together in a spiral, and in a blink of an eye, it turned into an energy ball with a diameter of more than 10 meters. Boom! The ice moon devil wolf opened its mouth and spat out the energy ball. The huge energy ball was like a meteorite that flew from the sky. It collided with the silver sword shadow head-on. Bang! Chapter 45. Boom! When the heaven and earth spiritual energy ball with a diameter of more than 10 meters met with the silver sword light that was more than 100 meters long, a destructive power erupted in an instant, and the sky immediately became incomparably chaotic. Ripples of vigorous energy waves burst out wantonly. The dazzling silver and golden lights were like blooming fireworks. The sky quietly changed color, and the lake in the area below was shaking incessantly. Layer after layer of waves soared into the sky. The chaotic scene was like a raging tsunami, shaking in all directions. Chu Hen, who was hiding in the dark, looked at the battle scene in front of him with a face full of shock. Was this the power of a beast king and a void-piercing realm powerhouse? It was simply frightening. Chu Hen did not doubt that if he was a little closer to the battle scene in front of him, the aftermath of the collision of power would be enough to cause a destructive impact on him. Even if he was lying there, Chu Hen felt that the blood flow throughout his body was boiling and speeding up. This kind of battle, for Chu Hen, who had just left Flame Rain City and had yet to come into contact with the big scenes of the outside world, could simply be called a feast for the eyes. Even though he had previously heard how terrifying the strength of a void-piercing realm powerhouse was, until he saw it with his own eyes, it was completely different from what he had heard. Bang! Violent explosions constantly collided and intertwined in the void. The ice moon devil wolf fully displayed its might as the king of beasts. The huge wings on its back flapped, and it moved as fast as lightning. Indistinct bolts of lightning streaked across the sky. The beautiful eyes of the young woman holding the silver sword slightly narrowed, and a faint solemnity appeared on her pretty face. I didn't expect this ice moon demon wolf to be so difficult to deal with. It seems that I can only use that move. The woman's red lips opened slightly, and she softly muttered to herself. Wu, however, the ice moon demon wolf suddenly increased its speed, and flew to the area above the young woman. Its huge mouth that was full of fangs opened once again, and in the next moment, a torrent-like white light surged out, covering the sky and the earth, and attacked the other party. In an instant, the temperature between the heavens and the earth suddenly dropped to the freezing point. Bursts of bone-piercing cold air filled the air, and even the circulation of true essence faintly slowed down. The young woman's expression changed slightly, but she did not dare to be careless. Then, his figure moved, leaving behind a series of afterimages in the void as he rapidly retreated to the back. Boom! Boundless white light immediately rushed into the lake below. In the blink of an eye, the entire lake fell into a state of deathly stillness. The lake water that was over a kilometer wide instantly froze into ice. A thick layer of ice covered the entire lake. Seeing this scene, Chu Hen could not help but suck in a breath of cold air. The Ice Moon Demon Wolf's strength was so overbearing that Chu Hen couldn't help but feel somewhat worried for the young girl. However, there was not much panic on the young woman's face. Soon after, an incomparably powerful aura was released from her body. At the same time, the true origin power that lingered around her immediately turned into a brilliant rainbow. The resplendent rainbow seemed to be extracted from the essence of the rainbow, and the airflow between the heavens and the earth became even more chaotic. The young woman's lily-white hand moved slightly, and wisps of rainbow light that were like rapidly growing colorful vines immediately climbed onto the sword in her hand. Buzz, buzz, the sword shone brightly, and the power that covered it was as powerful as the rising flames of a sacred flame. Sword of Phoenix Wings, Annihilation / The young woman shouted coldly. Screech, suddenly, a loud and clear phoenix cry resounded through the 9 heavens, and only a rainbow-colored afterimage flew out from the young woman's sword. In the process of moving, the afterimage constantly enlarged, and in the blink of an eye, a 300-meter-wide phoenix afterimage astonishingly appeared between the heavens and the earth. Although it was only an afterimage, the majestic aura that the phoenix exuded was especially clear and intense. At the same time, it also had an endless aura of destruction that could not be resisted. Wu, the devil Ice Moon Wolf, revealed an ominous glint, and the wolf's eyes, which flickered with a fierce light, were filled with human-like anger. At the same time, the blue snowflake pattern in the center of the devil Ice Moon Wolf's forehead flickered with a strange luster, and there were complex runes surging in the pattern. At the same time, a terrifying blue light erupted from the devil Ice Moon Wolf's body. Buzz! But it was also at this moment that the phoenix image suddenly sped up. 1 second before the peerlessly powerful phoenix image arrived in front of the demonic Ice Moon Wolf, the image instantly transformed into a shocking sword image that shone with a dazzling brilliance. Bang! The extremely destructive and lethality of the sword afterimage was unstoppable, and it forcibly broke through the devil Ice Moon Wolf's defense. The blue light condensed outside the devil Ice Moon Wolf's body was directly torn open, and the terrifying sword afterimage subsequently broke through the devil Ice Moon Wolf's body. A bloody wound could be seen extending from the devil Ice Moon Wolf's neck to its abdomen, and the sky was filled with blood that wantonly fluttered in the air. Beautiful! Chu Hen, who was hiding in the dark, secretly nodded and expressed his admiration. Wu, however, just when Chu Hen was certain that the battle was about to end, the demonic Ice Moon Wolf once again let out an incomparably furious roar. This roar, however, gave people a trembling feeling that originated from the depths of their souls. The blue pattern in the center of the devil Ice Moon Wolf's forehead blossomed with resplendent runes. A huge wave of energy caused the heaven and earth to shake. Boom! In the next moment, a dazzling blue light beam fell from the sky, straight down and straight through the young woman. The speed of the blue light beam was extremely fast, and the young woman's complexion changed. She couldn't dodge in time, and she was directly hit by the light beam. The young woman's delicate body trembled violently, and the primordial chi circulating in her body was instantly suppressed. What was even worse was that a bone-chilling cold entered her 8 extraordinary meridians. Not only did the circulation of primordial chi become abnormally slow, but even the movement of her limbs was also restricted. Swish! Immediately after, the young woman uncontrollably flashed down from the sky, and she half knelt on the lake that was covered with a layer of ice. The devil Ice Moon Wolf, which had suffered a heavy blow, also landed, and confronted the young woman head-on. The fierce battle had ended in a lose-lose outcome. Although the young woman's sword had severely injured the devil Ice Moon Wolf, she had also suffered from the opponent's all-out attack. The young woman used her sword to press against the ice, and tried to stand up, but it ended in failure. Strands of blue light lingered around the young woman's body, and what was even more astonishing was that her white skin was faintly covered with a layer of fine ice crystal frost. She had underestimated the Devil Ice Moon Wolf's power. The young woman frowned slightly, and her silver teeth bit her red lips. She continuously mobilized the primordial chi in her body, and expelled the primordial chi in her body. But in reality, she didn't have much time left. Awoo! The Devil Ice Moon Wolf let out a deep roar, and it slowly moved its feet, and its eyes revealed an ominous glint as it approached. The Devil Ice Moon Wolf used the cold energy to temporarily freeze the wound, and the blood quickly stopped flowing. However, the wolf's originally snow-white fur was dyed bright red by the fresh blood. The Devil Ice Moon Wolf bared its teeth, and its ferocious appearance was revealed. Its sharp fangs flickered with a penetrating cold light. Obviously, what awaited the young woman was a great crisis. Chu Hen, who was hiding in the dark, couldn't help but frown when he saw this scene. He originally thought that the Devil Ice Moon Wolf would definitely lose, but he didn't expect it to turn the tables in the end. A Beast King-level demonic beast really wasn't easy to deal with. With regards to the Devil Ice Moon Wolf, Chu Hen had a certain level of understanding. Its most powerful ability was its primordial ice-cold energy. Once one was injured by its cold energy, the 8 extraordinary meridians in the body would be eroded, and if the cold energy wasn't expelled, the person would be frozen into an ice sculpture. Although the young woman had used her powerful cultivation to suppress the cold energy in her body, it was impossible for her to recover in a short period of time. What should I do? Should he let her die in the mouth of the Devil Ice Moon Wolf? Chu Hen fell into deep thought. Under normal circumstances, he would definitely run as far as he could in such a situation. Regardless of whether it was a Beast King or a void-piercing realm powerhouse, killing him would be like pinching an ant to death. However, the Devil Ice Moon Wolf was now like an arrow at the end of its flight, and it could be seen from the way it was staggering. Even so, with Chu Hen's strength at the 9th level of the channel opening realm, he might not even be able to break the opponent's defense. If he didn't handle it well, he might even lose his life. There was no time to consider. Seeing the Devil Ice Moon Wolf getting closer and closer to the young woman, Chu Hen clenched his fists, and a demonic purple light appeared in his pitch-black eyes. I can only give it a try. On the frozen surface of the lake, the elegant young woman's beautiful eyes were faintly filled with anxiety. Her beautiful face showed a trace of paleness, and any man would not bear to hurt her. However, a demonic beast was still a demonic beast. In the eyes of the Devil Ice Moon Wolf, anyone who angered it must die. Roar! The deep roar was filled with the aura of death. The Devil Ice Moon Wolf opened its sinister mouth and directly pounced on the other party. The young woman's beautiful eyes narrowed slightly, as if she saw the footsteps of the Grim Reaper. Ray of Nirvana. Suddenly, a heavy reprimanding voice sounded. Swoosh, swoosh, along with the rapid wind-breaking momentum, the 2 purple beams of light were like flowing lights that traversed the night sky, sweeping up a piercingly cold might as they flew over. The target of these 2 purple light beams was actually the left eye of the Devil Ice Moon Wolf. The sudden attack left the Devil Ice Moon Wolf no time to defend. Hiss! Chapter 46. Hiss! At this critical moment, 2 beams of purple light shot towards the left eye of the Ice Moon Demon Wolf like flowing lights that traversed the dark night sky with a bitingly cold might. A series of blood splattered in the air. The elegant and beautiful woman's beautiful eyes trembled slightly, and her pretty face was filled with astonishment. Woo! However, the 2 beams of light did not truly injure the Ice Moon Demon Wolf's left eye. In the time it took for a spark to fly off a flint, the Ice Moon Demonic Wolf closed its eyes, and the 2 purple light beams slashed open 2 long and narrow wounds on its left eyelid. A Beast King-level demonic beast had extraordinary defensive power. The fact that the 2 beams of purple light could cut the Ice Moon Demon Wolf's eyelid was enough to make people gasp in surprise. Stupid dog, watch my spear! Without waiting for the young woman and the Ice Moon Demon Wolf to react, a young figure quickly rushed over. Chu Han leaped up, and the shadow spear in his hand swallowed and spat out a dense black light. Buzz buzz, the incomparably restless energy fluctuations caused the surrounding air to become abnormally chaotic. This spear strike gathered all of Chu Han's chi, and its target was still the Ice Moon Demon Wolf's left eye. Hiss! The sharp sound of a sharp weapon piercing through flesh was sharp and ear-piercing. The shadow spear was deeply embedded in the Ice Moon Demon Wolf's left eyelid. Scarlet blood burst out, and the Ice Moon Demon Wolf let out an extremely angry roar. Roar, a wolf howl that could make one's soul tremble, soared into the sky, and a huge beast king aura burst out. The blue pattern in the center of its forehead once again blossomed with an incomparably dazzling light. Immediately after, a circle of thick blue chi swept out from the Ice Moon Demon Wolf in all directions. Bang! Chu Han was directly sent flying by this chi wave. His palm felt like it was about to crack, and his arm trembled violently. However, he was not even able to pull out the shadow spear. Chu Han landed on the ice and looked at the Ice Moon Demon Wolf that had already gone berserk. His expression suddenly changed. To provoke the Ice Moon Demon Wolf with just his channel opening stage strength, it was really like a mantis trying to stop a chariot. What was even more shocking was that when the Frost Moon Demonic Wolf opened its left eye, its eyeball was still intact. It was obvious that the radiance of nirvanic extermination and the full-powered spear attack had not even been able to pierce through his opponent's eyelids. This guy is so king scary. Chu Han cursed inwardly. There was only one thought in his mind. Go! Immediately, Chu Han hurriedly turned around and rushed to the young woman's side with his fastest speed. He supported her shoulders. The cold energy of the Ice Moon Demonic Wolf still remained in the young woman's body. As soon as Chu Han touched his opponent's body, he felt as if an icicle had pierced into his flesh. Hiss! Chu Han frowned and subconsciously withdrew his arm. Can you walk by yourself? However, the elegant and beautiful woman still didn't seem to be able to react. Her delicate eyes were filled with astonishment. Damn it, there's no time. Chu Han clenched his teeth and hardened his heart. He immediately covered his hands with his primordial chi to resist the cold energy. He directly grabbed her slender waist and began to run. Just like that, she was suddenly grabbed by the waist by a strange man. The beautiful woman frowned slightly, her almond-shaped eyes widened, and her red lips opened slightly. Who are you? Now is not the time to talk about this. Chu Han could already feel the Ice Moon Demonic Wolf behind him getting angrier. In his mind, he could even imagine its ferocious appearance with bloodthirsty red eyes. You're really brave. You dare to make a move with just this little strength? The beautiful woman casually said. How would I know that stupid dog is so powerful? I'm saving you now. If it catches up later, I can only abandon you and run for my life. The beautiful woman was slightly angry, but she was annoyed and amused by Chu Han's words. Roar, however, the Ice Moon Demonic Wolf didn't seem to have the intention to chase after the two. The blue pattern in the center of its forehead became brighter, and a variety of complex and mysterious runes gathered in front of it. It was obvious that the Ice Moon Demonic Wolf didn't intend to chase after the two. Instead, it wanted to directly kill them. Buzz buzz, with the Ice Moon Demonic Wolf as the center, a surging vortex of power rotated rapidly. In the blink of an eye, the gorgeous blue runes condensed into a ball of flowing light in midair. The Ice Moon Demonic Wolf opened its mouth and raised its head in a long howl. In an instant, the ball of flowing light seemed to have received an extremely strong impetus, and it burst out at the speed of a meteor. Rumble! An endless aura invaded, and with the Ice Moon Demonic Wolf's feet as the starting point, the layer of ice on the lake's surface shattered inch by inch. The terrifying destructive power was like a meteor that traversed the sky, chasing after Chu Han and the beautiful woman. The airflow was chaotic, and ice fragments flew everywhere. F***ck. Chu Hen's complexion changed greatly. This ice moon demonic wolf was unexpectedly able to display such a terrifying power. It's over. This time they're definitely dead. At this moment, the beautiful woman suddenly stretched out her white lily-white hand and grabbed Chu Hen's shoulder. In the next moment, a bright and colorful intertwining light was released from the woman's body, and this colorful light also enveloped Chu Hen. Boom! The incomparably powerful forces converged together, and this kind of vibration was comparable to the unexpected collision between a meteorite and a raging tsunami. The earth shook and the sky turned dark. The huge lake was violently restless, and the thick layer of ice that covered the surface of the water collapsed in an instant. Rumble! Suddenly, something unexpected happened. The lake water that had set off a sky-shaking raging tide had strangely blossomed with a gorgeous white light. The white light was like a shadow, and it was as bright as a ray of light. Strange and chaotic energy fluctuations were released from the bottom of the lake. Then, the entire lake water actually began to rotate at a rapid speed. In the blink of an eye, the previously ordinary lake had become mysterious, and a huge whirlpool appeared between heaven and earth. The violent and chaotic whirlpool had shrouded the entire lake. Chu Hen, the beautiful woman, and even the ice moon demonic wolf were like bees and butterflies in the middle of a tornado. In the blink of an eye they were submerged. The sky and earth were spinning, and the wind and clouds were changing color. The mountains within a radius of more than 10 miles were faintly trembling, and the birds and beasts were frightened away. At the bottom of the lake, a dazzling white light constantly flickered, and it was strange and mysterious. This chaotic scene lasted for about 20 seconds. The lake gradually returned to its calm state, and the water droplets in the sky sprinkled down wantonly. The rising water vapor formed a shallow rainbow under the sunlight's refraction. After a while, the lake's surface became quiet again. But then, with a loud rumbling sound, a circle of air ripples exploded on the surface of the water, and a large white wolf with a pair of pure white wings flew out and landed on a mountain peak. The ice moon demonic wolf's abdomen contracted and relaxed, and it seemed to be in a state of exhaustion. The wound that extended from its neck to its abdomen began to overflow with scarlet blood, and the wound on its left eyelid also slowly flowed with blood. The originally majestic and domineering ice moon demonic wolf was clearly like a drowning dog at this moment. The ice moon demonic wolf looked at the lake in front of it, and its eyes revealed a trace of fear. Woo! It immediately let out a long howl, and its figure moved, disappearing in the blink of an eye. Rumble! The noisy noise kept reverberating in Chu Hen's mind, and this kind of chaotic noise seemed to be bursting his brain. When Chu Hen couldn't bear it anymore, he suddenly opened his eyes, and his consciousness returned. "You're not dead yet?" A gentle female voice entered his ears. Chu Hen was startled, and what entered his eyes was a pitch-black dusk, and the air was filled with a damp aura. He was sitting on the ground, and his back was leaning against the cool stone wall. "Where is this?" Chu Hen asked, puzzled. "I don't know." The same puzzled voice sounded again. From this voice, Chu Hen could roughly determine that the other party was not far away from him, and in the dusky environment, he could faintly see a faint shadow. "What happened just now?" Chu Hen asked. Previously, Chu Hen clearly remembered that the ice moon demonic wolf released a destructive big move in a rage. With the two of them's condition at that time, they would definitely die. However, they didn't seem to have suffered any injuries, and he couldn't help but feel a little strange. Very quickly, Chu Hen recalled that at that critical moment, she seemed to have placed her hand on his shoulder. Afterwards, Chu Hen felt a strong defensive force wrap around him, and he really couldn't understand what had happened. "It was you who saved me," Chu Hen said again. "You can say that. However, it was also because you gave me some time to recover a lot of my true yuan, and in the end, I was able to block the ice moon demonic wolf's attack." "Then how are you now?" Sigh. After a light sigh, the other party opened her mouth and said, In order to block the Ice Moon demonic wolf's last attack, I have used up almost all of my true yuan. The ice mystic chi that I had suppressed with great difficulty has taken over my major meridians. I am trying my best to expel the cold energy from my body. Chu Hen couldn't help but frown, and looked around at the unknown surroundings. He softly murmured, "I didn't think that the Beast King was so difficult to deal with. I was too careless." "So you knew that it was a Beast King?" "Yes. I thought that you didn't know. You really have some guts. You haven't even reached the elemental connection realm, but you rush towards a Beast King-level demonic beast. I reckon that you are the first in the Sacred Star Dynasty." There was a hint of a smile in her gentle voice. Chu Hen's forehead was instantly covered with black lines, and he unhappily replied, "Just take it that I am meddlesome." "Hee, are you angry?" "I am joking. I don't have time to be angry." "Alright. You are really interesting. What's your name?" "Chu Hen, what about you?" Chapter 47. In the dark and damp unknown space, Chu Hen and Xia Qing coexisted here. In such an environment, being so close to a beautiful young woman, any man would feel a little uncomfortable. Chu Hen seemed to be able to hear his own heartbeat. "I think we should be under the water." Xia Qing's gentle voice broke the strange silence. Chu Hen was startled and showed a puzzled expression. "Under the water? And I guess so. I think there was some kind of unknown restriction in the lake before, and when I fought with the Ice Moon Demon Wolf, the turbulence caused by the battle inadvertently triggered that layer of restriction. That's why we came here." After listening to Xia Qing's explanation, Chu Hen did not have too many doubts. The reason was very simple. Xia Qing was a void-piercing realm expert. Her cultivation was so high, and her knowledge and experience would certainly far exceed that of Chu Hen. "Then you continue to operate here to expel the cold air. I'll go check out the situation here." Chu Hen stood up and said, "Let's go together." Xia Qing also stood up. "Is it the mysterious ice-cold air in your body? It has been temporarily suppressed by me, but because it has penetrated deep into the major meridians, it can't be expelled in a short time. Let's see if we can leave here first. When we get outside, we'll think of other ways." Chu Hen nodded and did not say anything more. Immediately, the two found a place similar to a passageway, and entered one after the other. The air was filled with the smell of soil, and the surrounding walls were very damp. From time to time, they could hear the sound of water dripping on the stone. As the two went deeper into the passageway, they slowly discovered that the deeper they went, the larger the space became. Not long after, a faint yellow halo was quietly captured by the two of them. "There's light." Chu Hen was delighted. And Xia Qing also showed some surprise, but she was more cautious and cautious. The light in front was getting stronger and stronger, and after about 100 meters or so, a strange space appeared in front of the two. "This is," Chu Hen's handsome brows furrowed slightly. A concave building that looked like a pond appeared in front of him. The pond was square in shape, about 50 meters in length and width. A 2-meter-wide stone bridge connected to the opposite side, and the pond below the stone bridge was filled with stagnant water. This pool of stagnant water exuded a pungent, rotting smell. From afar, it looked like a pool of ink. "There's a door on the other side." Xia Qing's red lips slightly opened and she said. Chu Hen nodded, indicating that he had also seen it. On the opposite side of the concave building, there was a wide stone platform against the bumpy and damp stone wall. On the stone wall, there was a half-open stone door. The stone door was about 2 meters tall, and it was dark inside, as if it was a dark passage that led to another world. "Are we going there?" Chu Hen inquired. His tone revealed a sense of seriousness. Xia Qing's brows twitched as she asked in a soft voice, "What else? Should we retreat?" Chu Hen was taken aback. "Retreat? Retreat where?" This woman really liked to mock him. Of course, there was no real ill intent in her tone. Chu Hen could still feel that she was joking. The corner of Chu Hen's eyes narrowed as he muttered softly, "I wonder what's inside? We'll know once we go in. I'll walk in front," Xia Qing said as she took the lead and stepped onto the stone bridge that connected the inside and outside. Chu Hen was about to say something, but she had already walked up. Then, the two stepped onto the stone bridge. The sturdy stone floor supported the soles of their feet, and it was very sturdy. However, Chu Hen's heart was not particularly at ease. His attention was focused on the black water of the ink pond under the bridge. They walked through a third of the bridge in a row, and they were all safe and sound. Just as the two of them walked across the stone bridge-like path, the surface of the ink pond suddenly rippled slightly. "Be careful! Be careful!" The same two words came out of Chu Hen and Xia Qing's mouth at the same time. Whoosh! In the next moment, a blurry black shadow suddenly burst out of the black ink pond. A cold light flashed in Chu Hen's eyes. Dense qi power instantly condensed in the palm of his hand. Together with a fierce gust of wind, the powerful palm force hit the black shadow like a stormy sea. Bang! A heavy explosion sounded in the air. The black shadow was directly blown away by Chu Hen's palm and fell back into the black pond. What was that just now? As time was too short, Chu Hen could not see clearly what it was. However, then, a scene that made everyone's expression change appeared. Ji, jia jia. Accompanied by many strange sounds, the black water of the ink pond below became chaotic. One by one, black shadows emerged from the bottom of the water. When Chu Hen looked carefully, his pupils involuntarily shrank. These black shadows were actually demonic beasts that looked like lizards. However, what was different was that these strange things were covered with dark red scales and their backs were full of sharp thorns. At a glance, the entire ink pond was filled with such creatures. The largest was more than 2 meters, and the smallest was only the length of a chopstick. Front, back, left and right, pairs of vertical pupils coldly stared at Chu Hen and Xia Qing. This kind of feeling was as if they were waiting for a feast. Chu Hen could not help but swallow his saliva. Is this the Blackwater Monster Lizard? The Blackwater Monster Lizard was a level 2 demonic beast. An adult Blackwater Monster Lizard was equivalent to a level 2 elemental realm wuxio. At a glance, there seemed to be many adult Blackwater Monster Lizards. These demonic beasts liked to attack moving target. When the target was still, it was relatively safer. However, this was only relative. No one was willing to stay in this place for long. Chu Hen did not even dare to move carelessly. Between his eyebrows, he revealed a dense seriousness. The scene in front of him could be said to be unusually troublesome. What was more helpless was that Chu Hen's only weapon, the shadow spear, was also lost outside. Fighting against these things with bare hands would definitely be a great loss. Xia Qing did not speak, but silently handed an item to the other party. Chu Hen was slightly stunned. The item that Xia Qing handed over was none other than her sword. "What is this? Don't say any more. I know that you lost your weapon when you were fighting against the Ice Moon Demon Wolf." Xia Qing slightly frowned and said solemnly, "We have to enter the back of that stone door in the shortest time possible. I will deal with the front. I will leave the back to you." With Xia Qing's original strength, a mere pond of Blackwater Monster Lizards was not a problem at all. However, the Ice Moon Demon Wolf's cold qi was too overbearing. All of Xia Qing's major meridians were invaded by the cold qi, and the circulation of her true yuan was extremely slow. It was likely that Xia Qing's current battle strength was not much higher than Chu Hen's. However, they had already reached this stage. Other than moving forward, there was no other way out. Hearing Xia Qing's words, Chu Hen was clearly startled. The other party was actually so assured that she would leave her back to him? This was out of a great trust. Only then would she leave her back to someone else. A resolute light flashed in Chu Hen's eyes. "I understand. That's good. Count to 3. 1, 2, 3, go!" Xia Qing softly shouted. Chu Hen and the other party immediately rushed to the other side of the stone bridge at their fastest speed. However, in the next moment, the blackwater monster lizards on both sides of the stone bridge leaped up one by one. Their mouths emitted strange screeches and pounced towards the two of them. The blackwater monster lizards of all sizes covered the sky like an innumerable swarm of locusts. Shing, the crisp sound of metal caused the air to tremble. The sword in Chu Hen's hand blossomed with a resplendent silver light. The long sword danced, and the crisscrossed sword chi twisted towards the monster lizards that were pouncing towards them. Hiss! The swift and fierce sword chi was dazzling. The 4 or 5 monster lizards at the very front were directly cut into several pieces. As Xia Qing moved, she stretched out her fair and slender jade-like hand. Powerful chi gathered and flowed in her palm. In an instant it transformed into a blue sword chi. This sword shadow was formed purely from the power of quintessential essence, but it gave off an unusually sharp feeling. Xia Qing raised her wrist slightly. More than 10 solid sword chi intersected to form a beautiful sword chi net. The sword chi net shrouded the monster lizards with a head-on momentum. Bang, 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 along with a series of explosions, more than 10 blackwater monster lizards were forcibly crushed into pieces, exploding into clouds of blood mist. Chu Hen was secretly shocked, as expected of a void-piercing realm expert. Even though she was corroded by the Ice Moon Demon Wolf's cold chi, the other party's strength was still astonishing. Jia, GG. The blackwater monster lizards continued to launch fierce attacks. Fortunately, the ones that rushed over were the young ones that had yet to enter the mature stage. As for the adult blackwater monster lizards that were more than 2 meters in size, they were still staring at the two of them, as if waiting for an opportunity to make a move. Hiss! Fresh blood continuously danced in the air. One after another, the blackwater monster lizards were chopped into pieces under Chu Hen's sword. The pungent smell of blood filled the area. The stone bridge that they walked on was filled with the corpses of the monster lizard. Hold on a little longer. We are almost at the other side. Xia Qing opened her mouth and said. It seemed that Chu Hen was under a lot of pressure, but in fact, Xia Qing was not only enduring external dangers. After all, once she used her qi, the profound ice qi that was suppressed in her body would loosen. Xia Qing could already feel the profound ice qi in her body becoming active again. There was not much time left. Boom! At this moment, an adult blackwater monster lizard finally decided not to wait any longer. A body that was almost 3 meters long leaped out of the black water. Its ferocious and terrifying appearance was like a combination of a lizard and a crocodile, and its momentum was abnormally ferocious. An adult blackwater monster lizard was a level 2 great demon. Its overall combat ability was comparable to a level 2 elemental opening realm warrior. Xia Qing frowned. She naturally did not dare to let Chu Hen, who was only at the level 9 meridian opening realm, fight against this adult blackwater monster lizard. Xia Qing raised her lily-white hand and with a thought, Xiao, a blue sword shadow formed by Qi flew out from her palm like an arrow released from a bow. Hiss! The powerful sword shadow swept across the sky, like a flying arrow that traveled back thousands of years, and directly pierced through the head of the adult blackwater monster lizard. Accompanied by a shrill and strange howl, the corpse of the adult blackwater monster lizard fell heavily onto the water surface, creating a splash. Hiss hiss. Chapter 48. Kiki. At the same time that Xia Qing killed an adult black water monster lizard, another adult black water monster lizard suddenly rushed out. Its ferocious attack and ferocious face made it look like a ghost from the 9 netherworlds. Xia Qing's pretty face slightly changed. Just as she was about to condense her true yuan, the incomparably restless ice mystic energy immediately broke through the suppression. The circulation of her true yuan suddenly became abnormally slow, and even her mobility was reduced. Not good. Xia Qing was secretly shocked. Great waterfall mountain destroying palm. Bang! In the next moment, a powerful force like a mountain exploded from behind Xia Qing. Accompanied by the violent turbulence caused by the wave of air, the shocking palm force firmly hit the adult black water monster lizard's body. Boom! When it was less than a meter away from Xia Qing, the black water monster lizard was directly sent flying. Its strong and sturdy body was hit until it was bent into an arc. Although this attack was not enough to kill it on the spot, it still broke many of the monster lizard's bones and internal organs. The monster lizard fell heavily into the black pond, creating a series of splashes. Xia Qing looked at Chu Hen beside her with a face of astonishment. Her beautiful eyes were filled with shallow ripples. Chu Hen's handsome eyebrows slightly raised, and said with a faint smile, "Don't think too badly of me. These little lizards can still be dealt with, little lizards?" Xia Qing could not help but laugh, but she quickly calmed her mind. This was not a place to chat. "Let's go." "Yes." Chu Hen nodded. Immediately, the two crossed the stone bridge with their fastest speed and successfully reached the stone platform on the opposite shore. Kiki, however, the crowd of black water monster lizards did not stop chasing the two. One by one, ferocious black shadows jumped out of the ink pond and climbed onto the stone platform. Chu Hen glanced at the stone door on the wall behind the stone platform, then looked at Xia Qing and said, "Let's go." Without any delay, the two entered the stone door one after another. Chu Hen quickly closed the half-open stone door, and the crowd of black water monster lizards were immediately blocked outside. Phew! Chu Hen let out a long sigh of relief. He had finally passed this hurdle without any mishaps. "How are you? Did you lose control of your ice Xianqi again?" Chu Hen asked. Xia Qing's face looked rather pale. In the dim environment there was a kind of hazy aesthetic feeling. Xia Qing shook her head. "I'm fine. Let's get out of here." Chu Hen did not say anything. The two of them carefully moved towards the back of the passageway. After walking for about a dozen meters, the two of them entered a building that looked like an underground palace. "What is this place?" Chu Hen frowned slightly, and a hint of caution surged in his eyes. Compared to the previous place, this underground palace was relatively dry and not particularly humid. The air was filled with a scorching aura. "That is..." Chu Hen's expression slightly changed. He saw that right above the underground palace, there was a square stone platform. The stone platform was circular and especially spacious. It was nearly 10 meters wide, and on top of the stone platform, there was actually a skeleton. This skeleton was only 2 meters tall. From the skeleton, it was obvious that it was not a human skeleton. It had a long flat head, a crocodile-like mouth full of sharp teeth, 4 long limbs, and orderly rows of bone spurs on its back. Although it had already turned into a skeleton, the bone spurs were still abnormally sharp. "Black water monster lizard?" Chu Hen blurted out. "No." Xia Qing firmly denied. Black water monster lizards are unable to stand on their 2 legs. "Then what is it?" "Bloodhunter razorback dragon." A few gentle words came out of Xia Qing's mouth. "What? Bloodhunter razorback dragon?" As soon as these words came out, Chu Hen only felt a chill run up his back. The Bloodhunter razorback dragon was a very ancient monster. Its appearance was somewhat similar to the black water monster lizard, but the gap between the two could be described as heaven and earth. The Bloodhunter razorback dragon could walk on 2 legs. It was fierce, violent, and very bloodthirsty. It was a very dangerous king among the monsters. Fortunately, it's dead. Chu Hen once more examined the corpse of the blood-hunting razorback dragon. What he discovered was that there was a sharp, icy spear embedded in its chest. The spear had pierced through the chest of the blood-hunter razorback dragon, and countless ribs had been broken and shattered. Obviously, that was the fatal wound of the blood-hunter razorback dragon. Chu Hen's eyes involuntarily stopped on the long spear. He had an impulse to go forward and find out what was going on. "There's another skeleton there," Xia Qing suddenly said. Chu Hen was startled. He looked in the direction she was pointing, and saw that there was another skeleton lying by the wall of the underground palace. It was a human skeleton. Its back was leaning against the wall, and the bones in its chest were broken into countless pieces. "Is this the person who killed the Bloodhunter Razorback Dragon?" Chu Hen blurted out. "The Bloodhunter Razorback Dragon killed him too," Xia Qing added. With a lot of confusion, Chu Hen walked towards the skeleton by the wall. After some examination, he was surprised to find that there was a short dagger in the right hand of the skeleton, and next to the dagger were a few lines of writing. Chu Hen raised his eyebrows, and then squatted down to examine the lines of writing. "My name is Fang Bufan, and I have been bestowed the name Demon Spear for 20 years. Today, I accidentally broke into the lair of the Bloodhunter Razorback Dragon, and in the battle, both sides lost. In vain, I roamed the world and defeated all my enemies with a cold spear. Today, I lost my life here, and I didn't deserve to be called the Demon Spear. However, I have nothing to ask for in my life, and my only regret is that I can't spread the sharpness of the Demon Slayer Spear to the world. Alas! Alas! I hope that a fated person will step into this place and bring my Demon Slayer Spear back to the world. In the underworld, I will be able to rest in peace with a smile." In just a few short lines, Chu Hen was able to clearly feel the solemn and stirring atmosphere within those words. Next to these words, there was a dusty scroll. On the seal of the scroll, a few vague words could be vaguely seen. The words Demon Slayer Spear were written. "I didn't expect this person to be Demon Spear Fang Bufan." Xia Qing stood next to Chu Hen. Her beautiful face was filled with shock and complicated emotions. Chu Hen nodded and took a deep breath. He said, "I've heard of Senior Fang's name when I was young. He's one of the famous 3 great spear kings. It's said that his spear technique is unique, and it's flexible. He's known as the Demon Spear. 7 years ago, I heard that Senior Fang went missing, and there's no news of him since then. I didn't expect him to die here." When they were young, Long Zhan would often mention Demon Spear Fang Bufan's name to Chu Hen, Long Qingyang, and Long Xuanshuang. It was said that not only was Fang Bufan's spear technique amazing, but he was also indomitable and distinguished between good and evil. Long Zhan had always admired Fang Bufan's character. Part of the reason why Chu Hen used a spear as his weapon was because he had been influenced by Long Zhan since he was young. After a short period of silence, a bright luster flickered within Chu Hen's eyes. "Senior Fang, I'm Chu Hen. I'm fortunate enough to obtain this Demon Slayer Spear. I'll definitely not let Senior's name down in the future." It was a simple sentence, without any fancy words or embellishment. It seemed like it was the will of the heavens. Xia Qing's beautiful eyes rippled, and a faint smile appeared on her lips. "I believe Senior Fang can rest in peace now. I'll do my best." Chu Hen immediately cupped his fists and bowed deeply to Fang Bufan's court. Then, he put the Demon Slayer Spear scroll into his storage ring. "Senior Fang's weapon is still here," Xia Qing reminded. Chu Hen's eyes then turned to the stone platform above the underground palace, where a sharp spear was pierced through the skeleton of the blood-hunting dragon. Without any hesitation, Chu Hen walked towards the stone platform and reached out to hold the spear. The spear was more than 2 meters long, and the spearhead was long. Its whole body was dark gold, and the area connecting the spearhead and the spear body was painted with exquisite patterns. The patterns were like long and narrow vines, and the color was relatively dark, showing a grayish-black color. In the center of the spear body, there were 3 small words engraved with vigorous strokes. "Demon Slayer Spear, Demon Slayer Spear?" Chu Hen murmured softly, and a knowing smile appeared on his face. This thing was definitely not ordinary. He didn't expect to get such a big harvest here. Chu Hen exerted a little force in his palm, and then he pulled the Demon Slayer Spear out of the skeleton of the blood-hunting dragon. Crack! The crisp sound of bones breaking was extremely clear, But at this moment, something unexpected happened. The lifeless skeleton suddenly emitted a strange energy fluctuation. As the skeleton of the bloodhunter razorback dragon crumbled inch by inch, a red spot of light flew out of its skull without any warning. This was a drop of light that looked very much like blood, and there was a faint, strange liquid flowing inside it. Under the stone platform, Xia Qing's face changed drastically, and she hurriedly shouted, "Dodge, that's the blood essence left in the skeleton of the blood-hunting dragon. Dodge!" Xia Qing's panicked voice echoed in Chu Hen's ears. The distance was so close, but the voice seemed so far away. The next moment, the drop of blood essence shining with a strange red light, like a flying raindrop, gently fell on the center of Chu Hen's forehead. In an instant, Chu Hen's heart trembled a few times. Chapter 49. Dodge. In the midst of Xia Qing's panicked shouts, Chu Hen's heart suddenly trembled a few times. The drop of blood shining with a strange red light, like a drop of strange rain, gently fell on the center of Chu Hen's forehead. However, this drop of red rain was so hot. The blood essence of a monster beast. It contained the purest energy of the beast. However, this energy was extremely violent. If humans wanted to extract the power in the blood essence of a monster beast, the best way was to integrate it into a medicinal pill to refine it. If the blood essence of a monster beast was directly absorbed into the human body, the violent energy contained in the blood essence was enough to tear apart the major meridians of the human body. The bloodthirsty razorback dragon was a beast king-level monster beast. Its power was comparable to the top experts of the void-piercing realm. The power contained in a drop of its blood essence was far from that of an ordinary monster beast. Buzz, things happened too hastily, and Chu Hen was unable to escape the sudden splash of the bloodthirsty razorback dragon's blood essence. In an instant, Chu Hen's eyes turned blood-red in an instant. A terrifying power that was as berserk as an erupting volcano erupted from within his body. Chu Hen let out a painful scream, and then fell powerlessly on the table. Xia Qing hurriedly stepped forward to check on the other party's situation, her delicate eyebrows full of helplessness and regret. She clearly knew what a drop of the bloodthirsty razorback dragon's blood essence meant to Chu Hen, who was only at the 9th rank of the channel opening realm. No one could help Chu Hen. If her true essence had not been imprisoned by the Ice Moon Demon Wolf's Ice Xian Qi, there might have been a glimmer of hope to save Chu Hen's life. However, at this moment, Xia Qing could not even mobilize the slightest bit of true origin energy. Chu Hen kept rolling on the ground, his whole body on fire. The major meridians in his body seemed to be twisted by a knife, and the skin on the surface of his body turned red. This feeling was as if his body was filled with lava from a volcano, and he could explode at any moment. A violent power flooded all of his meridians and bones. Chu Hen's eyes were about to pop out of their socket. The blood vessels on his forehead, neck, and arms were about to burst out. The endless pain made his hands scratch the ground. Panting heavily, gritting his teeth, Chu Hen held his head with both hands, feeling like his whole body was about to explode. I won't die. How can a mere drop of demonic beast essence blood harm my life? Chu Hen roared loudly. His crazed appearance was like that of a ferocious beast. It was both ferocious and unbearable. Seeing Chu Hen in pain, Xia Qing's beautiful face was filled with helplessness. "I'm sorry, I can't help you." She could never have imagined that there would still be a drop of blood essence left in the corpse of the blood-hunting razorback dragon that had been dead for so many years. Moreover, it just so happened to merge into Chu Hen's body. Just a moment ago, Chu Hen had obtained the demon-striking spear left behind by Fong Bufan, the demon-striking spear demon. In the blink of an eye, he had received a devastating blow. It was really the will of the heavens. Sigh. Xia Qing sighed. Then, she took out an exquisite small bottle. She gently opened the bottle stopper, and a wisp of white aura floated out. At the same time, the temperature in the air suddenly dropped, and a bone-piercing chill spread out. This is the Frost Moon Demon Wolf's spiritual origin liquid. Although it can't save you, it can reduce your pain. This is as far as I can help you. At this moment, Chu Hen's consciousness was gradually becoming fuzzy. He didn't respond to Xia Qing's words. Xia Qing extended her hand above Chu Hen's face. The small bottle slowly tilted, and a drop of sparkling white liquid dripped down into Chu Hen's mouth. Buzz, the next moment, an incomparably cold chill suddenly spread out from Chu Hen's body. The power of the blood-hunting dragon's blood essence seemed to be suppressed. Chu Hen's skin turned from hot to cold, and then from cold to hot. Chu Hen's body fell into a state of stillness, no longer moving. Perhaps the pain had been alleviated, or perhaps he had completely lost consciousness. The Frozen Moon Demonic Wolf's origin spiritual liquid was condensed by the Frozen Moon Demonic Wolf's own profound ice chi. The Frost Moon Demon Wolf stored and accumulated this spiritual origin liquid for its cubs to use in the future. This spiritual origin liquid was obtained by Xia Qing from the Frost Moon Demon Wolf's lair. However, when it left, it was discovered by the Frost Moon Demon Wolf. Therefore, Chu Hen encountered Xia Qing and the Frost Moon Demon Wolf fighting outside. The spiritual origin liquid also contained the power of the Beast King of the Frost Moon Demon Wolf. Under normal circumstances, ordinary people would die upon contact. However, the ice chi contained in it had a certain easing effect on the power of the blood-hunting dragon's blood essence. Relatively speaking, it could slightly alleviate Chu Hen's pain. In fact, Xia Qing could have killed Chu Hen with one sword strike, simply and directly ending his pain. However, Xia Qing did not do so in the end. She really could not do it. Looking at the motionless Chu Hen in front of her, Xia Qing's beautiful eyes were a little apologetic. "If you hadn't helped me, you wouldn't have ended up like this. Thank you." Xia Qing resealed the bottle containing the spiritual origin liquid and put it away. Immediately, she sat down not far away and began to mobilize the power of qi to expel the ice qi in her body. Things had already come to this point. Xia Qing could not guess what kind of crisis or trouble she would encounter next. The most important thing now was to restore her strength. In the quiet underground palace, everything seemed to be frozen. Xia Qing's beautiful eyes were closed. Her elegant and refined face was beautiful and moving, although her clothes were a little wrinkled and her long hair was a little messy. But it still couldn't hide the natural grace and nobility. Traces of white air were expelled from Xia Qing's body. With Xia Qing as the center, the surrounding temperature was bone-chilling. At this time, Chu Hen was lying quietly on the ground, motionless. The Demon Punisher spear had also rolled to the side, still emitting its former sharpness. Buzz buzz! Suddenly, a strange power suddenly circulated from Chu Hen's body. This power was very obscure. If one did not carefully examine it, it would be very difficult to sense it. When this power appeared, the blood essence of the blood-hunting razorback dragon and the spiritual origin of the ice moon demon wolf became a lot calmer. Chu Hen's body was alternating between hot and cold. The power of the two kings chased each other in his body. Chu Hen, who had fallen into a coma, also entered a strange state at that moment. Rumble! The sky was dark and the sun and moon did not shine. In the vast and boundless sky filled with stars, a pair of huge purple demonic eyes appeared at the top of the sky. It was like the eyes of an ancient demonic god, looking down on all living things and peering into the sky. At the top of the sky, the wind and clouds surged, and the sky changed color. In the area behind the purple demonic eyes, there was a huge black shadow that was tens of thousands of feet tall. Endless power was released from the body of the black shadow. It was a power that could shake the heaven and earth. It was like a world-shaking demon god that dominated the universe. Buzz boom! At this moment, a surging power rushed up to the sky. That tens of thousands of feet tall black shadow burst out with a rich light. In an instant, The violent power that originated from the two king beasts in Chu Hen's body instantly eased. Lying on the stone platform, Chu Hen's breathing gradually calmed down. His body also slowly began to relax. His major meridians were like grass that had experienced the winter snow and cold wind. When the spring breeze blew, they were full of vitality again. A black light, as faint as a veil, lingered around Chu Hen's body. The power of the blood-hunting razorback dragon's blood essence, and the ice moon demonic wolf's source, spiritual yuan, flowed through Chu Hen's 8 extraordinary meridians in a regular pattern. 2 different kinds of power surprisingly fused with the power of true essence. The strength of the power of Qi rose steadily. Unknowingly, it broke through the boundary of the 9th stage of the channel opening realm and reached the level of the elemental opening realm. However, this was not the end. Chu Hen's body and power were constantly being strengthened. More and more vigorous aura condensed and grew in Chu Hen's body. However, Xia Qing, who had been circulating her qi to expel the ice qi, did not notice the change not far away. Time passed by, and in the blink of an eye, a whole day had passed. In this past day, Xia Qing's state was obviously much better than yesterday. There was a constant stream of misty ice qi being expelled from her body. A white icy mist lingered around her, giving her a sense of beauty and spirituality. Suddenly there was a rustling sound. Immediately after, a black water monster lizard that was nearly 3 meters long appeared in the underground palace without any warning. The blackwater lizard crawled over from the passage that Chu Hen and Xia Qing had come from. Even though the opponent was covered in sturdy armor and its claws were as sharp as blades. But when it moved on the ground, it only made a slight sound. The blackwater lizard stared at Xia Qing with a fierce expression. Its vertical pupils revealed a human-like cautiousness and viciousness. Danger approached step by step. However, Xia Qing seemed to still be in a state of circulating her qi to expel the ice qi. She did not notice what was happening in the outside world. Hiss! The blackwater lizard lightly stuck out its long and thin red tongue. When it was less than 3 meters away from Xia Qing, it suddenly shot out. This blackwater lizard's speed was extremely fast. Like an arrow released from a bow, it left a trail of afterimages in the air. The ferocious mouth full of sharp fangs opened and quickly bit toward Xia Qing. Buzz! At this time, Xia Qing's beautiful eyes opened, and a frosty cold air flashed in her eyes. However, just as Xia Qing was about to make a move, a sharp wind force swept over. Hiss! An ear-piercing sound rang out. The blackwater lizard's head was instantly pierced by a sharp spear. The spear tip was like a ray of light, flashing with a cold light. The blackwater lizard fell heavily to the ground. The sharp weapon that pierced through its head was the demon Punisher spear.